pushes within the last 10 to 15 minutes. So again, private credit on watch as we get some comments about the space from Fed Chair Jerome Powell.
By the way, before we go back and throw you over, I know we've already given them 25 seconds, so we're already way over time here. But
yeah, I told you, it's part of Joe's contract.
Bitcoin is right
back throw it over immediately
to where this was at 9:50 in the morning. That's a huge bounce back in Bitcoin. And what's going on with ETH? ETH, pretty much the same thing. How jokes is that these are both all the way back and BMNR is not at VWAP yet? That just means BMNR is relatively weak compared, but that might not last forever. Big bounce happening, and that's with USO not doing a heck of a lot. So we're going to go back. We'll be back, I should say, at 2 o'clock after the most Canadian meal of all time.
Salmon.
Yeah, but it's the Mexican salad that's really
but that's going to be the best part.
Throw me off. I hope so.
I think so.
Let's go. We got Sharif, the professor. We've got Joey options. Hopefully trading some small caps and some Bitcoin in the markets. We'll see you back at 2.
See you, everybody.
He had a hat trick on the weekend, by the way.
Did he?
Sweden's trying to get in the World Cup, as is Italy. They're still fighting for it. Boom! Greetings and salutations. Yes, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Katina, man, they're going down. I'd rather Italy in the World Cup. Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the Midday Show, beautiful people. That is your boy Joey Options. I'm Sharif. You know, I have a big affinity for soccer. Shout out to Don Sharifo, Lee the freaking conductor. Hangry wife trading. No, man, you're our guy. Shout out to you, my man. Random Bratley. We got Vincent. We got Georgie. Shout out to Gorev. We got Tariq. You don't say Tariq, guys. It's Tariq, but whatever. Lopa Fett. We got Durant, Gordon, and Hinsey. Shout out to Thomas, Bailey Buttons, King Clutch. 007 in the Real Dangerous. Shout out to Ronaldo. We got PMAC, Chicken Biscuits, and the 25th, my favorite number, TJ Morty in the house, Ahmed. We got Indy 23 and Frank Trades 99, T Money 9996 in the Real Dangerous. Shout out to Two Rich Grannies 07 and Arcane Sway. I see you, Keith Rocks, my man. Diamond District Flips, Buffalo Frickin' Soldier. Let's do one more, Joey.
Let's do it.
Let's see if there's just one I don't see there. We're going to do 2 more. Ooh. Because I know I see A-Day Trading, and you guys know who that is. That is Luis frickin' Barbado from the Real Trading Office in Barcelona, Spain. Shout out to Luis. We're going to do one more. Mr. P. Panda. Hello, right back at you.
Panda. All right, man. Good stuff. All right, guys, a lot going on. Hope everyone had a fantastic weekend. Sick UFC. Assassino, you're giving away the chart already, my boy. Oh man, that's all right.
That's how we do. That's
how we. This is how we do, man. What did Tina Man say? You gotta wait.
He's piling in, man.
What are you doing, my boy? No, it's all good. Pull it up. You may as well get it all involved here, guys. Bitcoin. Sean and I were talking about this earlier this morning. Neil was short Bitcoin earlier today too, just above the volume-weighted average price, and we were fortunate to catch it all the way down to 38 bucks right there, and then we get stopped out the last remaining bid as some volume stepped into the market, and sure enough, it was only 10%. So I'm happy with that, considering we locked in 90% right there. And that's it. So moving forward, guys, let's take a look at what we have on our watch list. Nothing outstanding. I mean, what I like about earnings season is that we can kind of diversify, but then I just typically lead back to these names when there's nothing really on my volume scanner, and that's the SPY and the NASDAQ. You know we're always going to have that in the corner of our eyes. We have NVDA, double bottom it looks like here, and then Tesla holding up relatively well, and some strong engulfing prints here on Bitcoin as the volume really starts to uptick in this name. Climbing back, essentially what took multiple hours of grinding lower, you engulf within a matter of 10 minutes. So not too bad of a look. Maybe we'll find some signs of strength and some opportunities to go long here on Bitcoin, but most definitely a choppy session. Microsoft also moving higher on some news this morning, guys. We'll go over that momentarily. But nonetheless, let's take a look at our options chain and see what we have from outstanding open interest. Let's head over to Microsoft because that is one of the stronger Mag 7. As it's continuing to put in new highs of the day. Do we have any outstanding size? Don't forget, guys, Friday the market is closed, but 380 in a name that was down 30% at one point.
Here,
yeah, so there's a lot going on with these big names. Is it ripping?
Yeah, it's ripping. Is the market? It's just moving with the market.
Oh, I mean, that's a breakout. We can find out.
That's a monster breakout.
That's a big-time
there.
breakout.
Yeah.
Same thing here in Microsoft Strafe, so I wouldn't be surprised if the NASDAQ starts to follow. What's Apple up to?
Nothing.
Not doing too much, but potential bottoming signals right there, Gaurav. That's a good one. Volume supporting it, engulfing print, and then now you're starting to climb a little bit higher. Market big time recovery here today, but watch out for Apple. It's the same narrative in which we were talking about with these other names. If this support level breaks, guess what? You're probably going to see a little bit more downside. Moving forward, we talked about this for quite some time. As obvious as it may seem, you're going to go one way or the other here in NVDA, and it seems to be that we are heading lower and lower. So 168 may break, but Sharif was talking about this morning. You were saying price to earnings was 19 now?
Sub 20.
So if we're going to go from a historical data point, we've seen Google at 23 times and then essentially doubled in price in the span of a couple of months. What does that mean for NVDA? It may not be the exact same case, but considering this whole AI trade doesn't really work without this guy right here, I like our chances for it to really, really start moving once it's absorbed, that distribution is done, and then we find some good buying opportunities. Wait for those trend lines to be broken, guys.
Iran is tapping down on Starlink, arrests 46 in Starlink sales network. That hold 55. Hold on for the entire thing. 300 megabytes.
I saw the ad on Instagram.
That's fantastic. That's not bad at all. Well, we'll get more information on that, but that's interesting there. Thank you, Katina, man, for watching that. All right, guys, let's get right down to work. There's one that's really moving here, and it goes by the ticker ASTC. Alas, it's off the highs. It was breaking out as I sat down right at 1050. I think 1055 is the high. It's 648, which is essentially 650. Look at this case. Comes into 525, and not 526, but 525. Just joking. And then find some support at that level. Alas, it's still putting in lower highs. It's got a bunch of lower highs and lower lows. It did find some support here at that double top. I want to say 525 was the level. We've got the 10 EMA on the 5. The 10 exponential moving average on the 5-minute chart is always what I mean by that when I say 10-minute on the 5. 516, 515. It's still putting in lower highs, but we're above the 10 EMA. So now I'm starting to watch as we get closer to that 10 exponential and that whole $5 level of what kind of size we get stepping in. Now, we did get a momentary pop up. We got right into that low 525, 523, rocketed back up above the $0.50. But as you can see, candle still red, still lower highs, obviously lower lows. So the trend is to the downside here for the moment on ASTC. We're going to try to spot key areas of support and resistance. I still feel this 10 EMA is good until it shows otherwise, and really hasn't at the moment. It hasn't been breached. And look at this. The last time we were below the 10 EMA, 1015, pardon me, and then it was all gas, no brakes. Right back into the low of the candle goes. So the selling still operative here on ASTC. It's not time to go long. In my humble submission, I won't be going long here. I'm going to need to see more. And there it goes, continuing to bleed, making new lows in this 5-minute candle. 522 now, 21 is the low of the candle. BFRG, there's so much we can say here. What a recovery! Look, I had this one pegged as a sell-off, Luis. I was gonna tell Luis, should I be looking short here? Well, that one didn't last very long. It momentarily dipped below $1. That was the 1055 candle. Ended up being a hammer candle, and then it was breached substantially by the subsequent candle at 11 into an area high. Is this halting? We are now halted up on BFRG, I believe at the high of the candle at $1.29. The high of the day is 136. But as you can see here, the real resistance has shown itself at that $1.30. There's only one candle that closed above the $1.30 on the 5, and it is the 950 candle. excuse me, the 955 candle where we closed at, I believe, 132 or something like that. So BFRG coming back from the dead, coming back from south of VWAP, holding on to the dollar, and now challenging for that high a day. Let's put some dang respect on this one's name. We're definitely keeping an eye here on BFRG as this one's shown itself to be still in play. SST is a holdover from Friday. We had big moves on SST on Friday. Look at this. We're not above the Friday highs, but neither are we below the Friday lows. So this is very much an inside day, an engulf day. What I do really like about the price action, at least in the pre-market on SST, is this. Take a look at this kind of like afternoon aftermarket low, 270 or 275, give or take. Look how well we defend that into the pre-market from the aftermarket on Friday. So it tells you those buyers that were stepping in the aftermarket on Friday, they weren't transient. They showed up again this morning over the weekend. And here we are attempting to take out that 4.5. It's a 447 high. The best we did on Friday was at around, I think, 305, and that was 475er. So let's see. Pardon me, if we can get back in there, SST in play. ELAB, this was a monster in the aftermarket on Friday, but it was also a monster, I believe, last week or the week before last week. I know RC made like 38K on this piece of crap. But anyway, ELAB making a big move here, as I mentioned, in the aftermarket, holding that consolidation area low from the aftermarket on Friday, which is about $3. We lost it momentarily in the pre, but we were quick to regain it. Here we are again. The official low is 301, and here we are at 319. Now, it's not exactly a glowing endorsement to go long. Look at this unbroken, well, I shouldn't say unbroken, but pretty pronounced downtrend. It was unbroken by this. Sorry, it was broken by this 930. The implied balance high takes us to 488, but then the shorts piled in like you wouldn't believe, and then right back down and starting to hold trend into the lows. So ELAB also in focus. UGRO, another one we had, positive earnings on last week or the week before. UGRO's that has a big catalyst. $28 high. I see a couple of bull flags here. The first one, 7 a.m. Maybe some headline came out. I don't care. And then we get a second bull flag here at around 935. So a couple of bull flags with the area low to be about, I want to say the volume weighted average price at around 23.25, 23.33. So that's all also in play. Last one, Joey. BBWI, much lesser of a, parabolic name. I want to say 8 4/5 going possibly on 9% on the day. A little bit lower volume, not bad. Volume sporadic too. It shows up like every other candle for some reason. It's not consistent volume, but it's done enough volume on the day for me to feel comfortable getting in. And that's it. RBNE, this is going to lose its spot momentarily on the side chart. So what I'm watching attentively here, ASTC, as this is trying to kind of recover above 5, it momentarily dipped below 5 into 491. Let's see if it's able to breach prior bar high. It's still an unbroken downtrend, so nothing for me to do. And then BFRG, because that one's halted up and it requires my respect. So we're going to keep looking at that, and we'll report to you guys obviously on I give anyone that uses the word transient the rock eyebrow. Shout out to Jason Falk. I apologize, brother. I'll factor in your disdain for the word transient when I do select my words from here on forward. Please don't get upset with me, Joey.
All right, man. Good stuff. Make sure you tune in to TikTok, man. I finally get in on that thing, man. It never lets me sign in. But yeah, trading 24/7 on TikTok. Wants us to take a look at NVDA, and then I see you in the chat. Zarfak Hawa. We will take a look at that here. Well, I butchered that, Sharif. There's without any question. So, guys, we were just talking about this not too long ago. Just the fact that you're going to get this breakdown. I think at this point, you're breaking through some key support levels. Where's that next level going to be? And that's going to be approximately at that $150 mark. I mean, that's a substantial haircut, but we're only 17 points away from that specific level. So just be patient. You have to come up with a game plan in order for you to even if you're investing or if you're trading this one, because the market is extremely weak. And if we decide to break down really, then watch out. There might be some further continuation in the overall market as well too. And we were looking at specific levels here. over here on the NASDAQ, the triple Qs, you have that 545 level. I think we're only 20 points away from that, not even. So yeah, just keep an eye on it, guys. There might be some more downside consolidation, distribution, and now we're heading a little bit lower. Moving forward, let's take a look at what the individual in the chat just asked me to take a look. Joe, please talk about credit spreads on options. That's a good day for that. Yeah, I mean, so essentially what you want to see here, if we want to talk a little bit about credit spreads, is that you want to see an increase in implied volatility. So you can obviously get as much premium as you possibly can. If you're headed lower, I don't think now is the time for bull puts, more or less bear calls, essentially. Just you want to go with the flow. You don't want to try to catch a bottom on these ones. I think it will make things extremely more difficult unless you're happy with doing CSPs, cash secured puts, right? And then sure enough, if that's the case, you're willing to get assigned at that price that you're selling. So keep an eye out on that. But again, we were in Condor. I think Condors were the ideal strategy for quite some time, and that's going to be a credit-based trade. But now, if you are looking to get bearish, it's most definitely the bull put. I mean, the bull calls or the bear calls. Sorry, just due to the fact that we are heading a little bit lower. They're risky, right? Because you can have some more dramatic spikes in the implied volatility, which again would be like, hey, I didn't collect as much premium as I possibly could. Because when you're selling credit spreads, essentially, is that you can only make so much. It's a fixed amount, right? Opposed to just buying a call. You can make infinite. Essentially, there's obviously time that you have to factor in, but theoretically, you can make infinite. But with credit spreads, it's a fixed amount of profit that you can take in time and time after again. And I talk about using your delta metric as of a percentage gauge in which those contracts are going to expire out of the money, and that's essentially the objective when you are selling credit, okay? So keep that in mind. Market right back towards those lows. We rip higher, Bitcoin comes out here, top wick for me on my last little bit of out. I didn't even reload on this one, back down to 38.20. So whatever we just gained is now absolutely gone as Tesla, NVDA, and some other names are heading right towards the low of the day. So the bearish momentum is definitely in, and I think it can continue until this war really starts to cool off, and that may take some time. When did Ukraine start? In 2022? So you're now 4 years into that one. I'm not going to say that this is going to be exactly the same length, considering there is boots in the ground, but if it continues to escalate, then there's going to be a lot more trouble, especially in the overall market. But with names like NVDA and Google's still selling a little bit, but at some good price to earnings, I think you'll find some value. But with that being said as well, you need to be sitting on some cash, which not everybody is. They're fully allocated, or they're sitting on little bits amounts where it's not going to add any dramatic effect or drastic effect to your average price. It's some stuff that you're going to have to sit through, unfortunately.
Yeah, Burrow, I don't want to see boots on the ground. I think that will just be so deleterious to a lot of different accounts.
If that were to be the case, it's I would say it's on automatic, like 3% down in the NASDAQ.
Automatic, yeah. All right, got in a couple of good outs over here on BFRG. No continuation though. It makes that 142 high, drops back down, loses prior bar low, stops me out, negative on it. I didn't take out almost anything here. I was looking for $1.44 because that was my 1R. It goes to $1.42. We don't quite get the full, well, it wasn't going to be full size. It was going to be about half the position at 1R. No continuation, though, on BFRG. So need to keep an eye out on that one. It breached prior bar low. This is a candle of indecision where, you know, it takes out that 135-ish top that we've basically been playing with on the day as resistance, loses the low. Here it comes in now. What's the pickup area, though? I'm thinking about 120. There seems to be a lot of support at 120 from before the time that we lost VWAP. I'm talking about right here, bottom chart, bottom right on your screen. But no continuation, so keeping an eye on this one. Also definitely keeping an eye on ASTC. It is an unbroken downtrend. I'm very interested in maneuvering in on ASTC, but I really want to stress that I had a bias that these were like kind of like A+ setups, at least before, you know, the war started. Or, you know, in the early stages of the war when we weren't getting affected too much by in small cap world. But I've since changed my opinion a little bit because these ones are now manifesting typically in lower highs. What I mean by that is they hold up above VWAP mostly, then you'll get a decided trend break below this lower trend line, right? You'll get a clean, couple, 2-3 candles that could take out the high, 550, 560, 570. But what I'm noticing with these trend breaks is that almost always lately, you're getting that lower high. So you don't make it up into that 648. Best you'll do maybe 575, 580, and then you'll start getting lower highs and lower lows. And that's how you know you're setting up for another area lower high. And so that is a concern to me. That doesn't mean that you can't trade it in that way. Just be, more selective in where you're looking to take profit. So you shouldn't be looking by default for that retest of 6, for that retest of 6.5 into the area high, because they've been failing lately. And that's the point I'm trying to make. We're going to Adair.
So to let you guys know, as I kind of predicted here, Fed Chair Powell steering away from any hot button issues during this talk. He was asked by a student, well, what happens if Kevin Warsh comes in as Fed Chair? We know that he said he wants to cut rates. Would that make sense? We know that inflation's still high, et cetera, et cetera. Fed Chair Powell literally said, yeah, I'm not going to touch this. So again, Fed Chair Powell avoiding hot button questions, just be aware of that. He is still speaking, though. I also want to mention here, mild Iran headline, New York Times reporting that the U.S. negotiating partner in Iran, according to President Trump, is going to be the parliamentary speaker of Iran, Galibaf. Now, it's worth noting we've already heard claims that Iran and Galibaf have denied that he's going to be the negotiator. But Trump, again, saying that he is, in fact, going to be the negotiator. And, quote, we'll find out in about a week whether he is someone the U.S. can truly work with. Back to you.
All right, good look. I mean, guys, there might be some potential long opportunities here today. That's a nice print on the SPY right at the volume-weighted average price. How is the NASDAQ looking? So we're south, not as strong as what we're seeing in the S&P. This potential long, but if that support level breaks, then maybe we'll get somewhat of a continuation. Definitely a choppy one here today, guys. So you're having that breakdown right out of the gate, and then you climb back towards the volume-weighted average price, break right back down, but you fail to establish a new low. Come back higher, you do put in a new high, but then it's immediately rejected. So just be cautious on what you got going on. Be prepared to sit in a little bit more chop here. And I think that's going to be the narrative of today's session, to be honest with you. A lot of ebb and flow, a lot of ups and downs, and not necessarily a definitive trend, unless you want to call going sideways one, which it technically is. But we want to see it go up or down regardless, and typically up, but that doesn't seem to be the case. I'm going to get long a little bit of IBIT here. There is a nice risk profile. Only got to give it 6 cents or so. So let's get involved in some Bitcoin one more time. We're going to go opposite of what we did before, and that's the short. Okay, never mind. It's kind of invalidating essentially my thesis right now as we are about to break that. So I'm glad I didn't just punch. If we hold and continue to curl over, then I like an opportunity. Same thing with the NASDAQ, right? In the triple Qs, we got that hammer candle print. If we break that 562 mark, then we just get out of Dodge and look for some other opportunities. Other than that, I mean, this one good trade is essentially what you want to put on. If I just risk a little bit of my realized gains, then I have no issues with it. But then at some point, you have to stop when you give the majority of that back. So that's the boat I'm sitting in right now, Sharif. I'm happy to sit on our hands for a little bit longer and wait for some high-quality opportunities.
All right, man, giving ASTC a try over here. I'm looking for scalps, guys. I'm not looking for a big move on this one into 6. I just am not, because for the reasons that I've mentioned, I feel these patterns are failing more often than they are continuing. So if that's the case, I'm going to keep a tight stop on this monster. I'm looking for scalps. We'll see what comes of it. BFRG, we got in here nice at 126. I see a bit of a double bottom on these two candles. They've both got a low of 123, so I'm going to give this the old college try. Let's see what we got here. What do we got? We got 26s on. So for BFRG, let's put in my fixed price over here, which is 126. So I'm looking for, how's that possible? I got to work on this R&R thing, because I think the R&Rs are giving me incorrect data at times, but that's okay. I'll just have to focus on this for a sec. So looking for 123 to hold. That's all I'm really looking for there. There seems to be a buyer, 123. Here we are again at that level, and we just lost it. So we got stopped out of that one for a second time. Got to leave that one alone until it sets up. Let's focus on ASTC. This one's also got selling here, and I'm assuming it's going to have more selling into the $0.5. The current candle high on ASTC, by the way, is 42. And here it comes, the selling again. So current candle low on ASTC, 503. So we definitely have some support at 5 with a VWAP hold, but we'll keep an eye on that. And then somebody was telling me that they saw EEIQ moving, and I remember that one from last week. So let's take a quick look here at EEIQ. Yeah, that's not it. That's definitely not going to be it for me there. And that's probably why I didn't put it on the side chart. Yeah, this one's definitely a short. Feels like a definite short on this monster here. With this outlying area that kind of popped up. I think that was 820. Okay, I thought that was going to be 930. No. So this one looks like you may be interested here in going short below 9. It's a 908 low. It's got a plethora of lower highs and lower lows with now this kind of flat bottom developing towards that $9 area. I think the technical low of day is 908. We were obviously lower in the pre, but the pre is... yeah, it was. I don't want to say it was sparsely traded. It was traded well, but not great. Oh boy, we got pushed out of that BFRG. Oh shucks, that's no good. Yeah, so I have to set up on this one again because that one's still in play here. So what are we going to do on that one? All right, let's see if we can get long here on BFRG. Going to give it to this candle low, which is 1-2. Let's go 1-2-1. On that monster, and then we're gonna go just like that. All right, good. 1-1-2-1, and then we'll stop out 1-2-0. I think that should be enough room for that. So we'll see if this one can kind of continue. Got pushed out of that one, but that's a nice doji candle. Nice move here. Good move. Looking for continuation. Let's see if we can get up a little bit more into 39. Current candle high, I believe it's 36. This one breached prior bar high. Now we should have an attempt here at 40. Now we know that the selling is coming in at 35 because you don't have any closing prints above 35. So that is a bit of a problem. And wow, holy cow, ASTC just lost a bit super quick. Let's focus here on BFRG though, because we have shares on this one, and I'm looking for a bigger move up. If we can clear 135 on a closing basis, I think this would be a good trade. The problem is this 135 level keeps coming back in as an area resistance level. I mean, it's just very obvious on the 5-minute chart. And here it is on the level 2 with aggressive selling at 135. We're able to get above it momentarily, but the shorts reset up at that exact same level, Joe. So if we can kind of push these shorts out, let's see if the buying steps in here. Big size on the book at 135. There's also good size at 134 on the bid, so you are getting backstop a bit, but the shorts seem to be in control on this one. I'm going to be a bit more selective with my stop placement so I don't keep getting cut up on this one. But I like BFRG at these levels, but it's shown its intentions to kind of have a little bamboozlement here and there. If that's the case, we got to keep that in mind when we're trading it, Joey.
Yeah, for sure. Jose was talking to me about this name earlier today. I know Shreve was just going on about it, but BFRG.
Yeah.
I want to go over it one more time
about
here. BFRG. They signed a deal. Yeah, he liked it. He was trading it in the pre-market.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's cooking up. He climbed it up all the way up to I think 30s. I think at one point $1.30 that is. Now, I was looking at this, right? Like, this is a really good print here on BFRG. Didn't pull the trigger on it, but 103 all the way to $1.42. That's pretty good, right? Especially for a dollar name. That's a substantial increase right there, almost 40%, a little bit less. But there goes Bitcoin climbing right back up into the view up, and the market looks like it wants to find somewhat of a recovery. As for Apple, buying pressure, a lot going on around these lows. You can see all these bottoming tail wicks essentially. So what you have going on is that price is being pushed lower, but then buyers are stepping right back in, allowing these candles to close somewhat bullish. So you just got to be patient and wait for a pullback to see if we continue to hold, or it's going to be a bearish day in general. But as for the 1 and the 5-minute, it's looking pretty good as the market has double bottomed. You're seeing across the board a lot of identical patterns, and then we want to see if we can just take advantage of those. Ethereum, how has it been performing here today? I mean, not as good as Bitcoin, but I mean, it's relatively the same thing, I guess I should say. Rich Tech, that thing's been getting slaughtered. A guy from work was asking me about it, and it's literally his tag. His tag is a guy from work. I know I always say that, but he's like, hey, man, Joe, is this a good buy? You have to be prepared to DCA, but other than that, like, look at this volatility, essentially. This isn't good. It's really started to cool down, and then now we're just grinding lower and lower. We want to wait for it to either bottom out, start to form somewhat of a consolidation period around the lows, and then the break of the trend before we start to engage, unless you're willing to DCA, Adair.
Time to take a look at Bitcoin. We'll look at Ethereum as well, but I think also given that it's not only near the end of the month, but it's also near the end of the quarter, I think it's worth it to zoom out, take a wider look at some of these crypto names. Here's Bitcoin on the daily to start things off, taking out all of the price action here from Saturday and Sunday to the downside with a nice push to the upside. That 65,000 now coming into play as support for BTC. We'll take a look at Ethereum too. ETH also taking out not just Sunday and Saturday's move to the downside, but also Friday's move to the downside. Nice push higher here for Ethereum. But we'll look at this BTC chart on the, let's do the quarterly, the 3 months, take a look at how we've performed this quarter. This is going to be our second straight quarter to the downside. Last quarter, so Q4 25, down 23%. This quarter poised to close lower, also another 23%. If you look at Ethereum, this quarter down 30%, last quarter down nearly 30%. So lots of these quarterly declines back to back, at least that we're poised for right now on crypto. Solana, last quarter down 40%, this quarter down 32%. Let's take a look at XRP as well. XRP down 27% this quarter, last quarter down 35%. So lots of back-to-back quarterly losses in store for crypto if tomorrow holds out. And imagine, assuming we don't have a massive 20% spike tomorrow. Back to you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, Luis, you're right. Very bid non-compliant is BFRG, stopped out again. This is all over the map. And you try to, gauge areas of support and resistance. It's not working out for me. So I've either got to wait for a decided change in the structure of how this one is trading. For example, like a clear move above 150, so we can clear out all the shorts that are clearly setting up at $1.35 that we can't shake. They're still in control. So BFRG, to me, I'm going to only trade this if it's got a clear and a decisive break above that $1.35 on a multi-time frame look, because I'm negative on it now. 0 for 2 on BFRG. ASTC, this one, I mean, it's setting up in a way that I like, but I'm awfully suspicious of it because of what I've seen with this exact setup. And I just spoke about it, but I want to speak about it again because there aren't that many moving. This one, or these type of setups where you get such a clear move up, and then it's almost like you retrace, let's just say half to a third of the way down. Just for my own curiosity, I want to use the fibs here to see what the percentage retracement was. It's always a little subjective, of course, from where you're drawing the fib. Let's go from 3. It's the whole dollar level, and it looks like a good base there. So we've retraced about almost half. 475, where it finds a general area of support, is about half the move. Technically, 481 is the area low. Okay, if you draw the fib from 3 into the area high of 648. What I do like about this are 1, 2, 3, almost 4 bottoming tail candles, all of which breach 5, all of which come close to the volume weighted average price, none of which close below 5, and none of which touch the volume weighted average price. So why I like this is because, again, when I've seen these patterns in the past, you get that decisive downtrend break. Sometimes it's immediately followed by higher highs and higher lows. Some other times it does this. It does this kind of consolidative move as the buyers and sellers duel it out. Who's going to win here? Right now, the buyers are looking, at least like for the moment, that they're winning because we're trading near candle highs or above 5. But we haven't really established a trend. We're now on a 3 to 4 candle consolidative look. Maybe even 5 if you include this one over here, this 1110 candle. So ASTC stays on my watch list, stays in focus, but by no means am I going to be as aggressive with it as I have been in the past when these patterns were paying. What else is moving? EIQ, this one is really bleeding. I had a feeling that this was going to drop below 9. It has lost 9. It is on the way to 8. So if you guys can secure some shorts on EIQ, it's an unbroken downtrend. It got a bid there in the pre, and it's basically giving back the entire move. UGRO is also trying to get back above the volume weighted average price. Bit more expensive of a name, quite frankly, and I don't know. It doesn't really seem to be as respectful of areas of support and resistance, breaching through 24, breaching through the volume weighted average price, and not really giving me a clear insight into how it wants to trade. So I'm kind of hesitant to want to trade this one as well. But if there are any other small cap gappers that you guys are seeing on your screener, or perhaps you're seeing it somewhere else, I'd love to know about it. I'd like for it to be trading above VWAP, doing some good volume on the day so that we can maneuver in pretty well. I see GEVO over here. Oh my God, it's 2021, 2020 again. GEVO. I remember specifically trading this one at home. And the only reason I remember it is because my barber at the time, story to follow, his name was GEVO. And I remember trading this one when I was using him as my barber. And then he moved to Vaughan. He was way too far for me to keep driving and go see him. But this, I remember, used to be one of those small cap gappers that made a lot of people money during the pandemic. And here it is again, above $1, trading at the high of the day to 287. Last, it is a little late on volume given the price. About 5 million shares traded on a day on an almost $3 name, up 14 or thereabouts percent, 13.89 to be exact. But this is one that I'll be keeping my eye on. Looks like a little bit less bamboozling maybe than BFRG and ASTC. GEVO looks like their 10 EMA on the 5s at around 280, but looks like initial resistance 275. That would make sense given the $0.75 area. So I'll be keeping an eye on that one if you guys are interested. But other than that, I'm going to have to pack my patience here with ASTC. It's looking good, but if we can get a breakout here, or perhaps some more money fills around VWAP, we'll get involved. But for the moment, Joey, staying clear.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is my game plan here on the NASDAQ, guys, TQQs. I was like, oh, okay, if we break through this pivot, I like this. Didn't want to take the trade, but now we're north of the volume-weighted average price here. So what are we going to do? We're just going to wait for that pullback. Hopefully we get 39, and then I'm going to look to engage on the TQQs here for a potential long as the market is recovering. And what we typically say and what we want to look at here is essentially what the bigger participants are up to, and that's going to be the NVDAs, the Teslas, the Microsoft, the Googles. And Microsoft was strong not too long ago, breaking out. Still holding up around those highs. Sharif was talking about Amazon not too long ago, heading towards the high of the day. And what has Goggles been up to? Breaking through some key support levels. So the NASDAQ can continue to climb here. And there goes IBIT. This consolidation and some indecision prints. Man, oh man, what a missed op here as it's going to break through this pivot momentarily. Volume is supporting this move as well. Look at it step in as we continue to climb. And essentially what took the majority of the morning, we were involved in around 9:37. We took our last out at 10:45, so a little bit over an hour. And then sure enough, we got stopped out at 10:57. But what took over an hour to climb was engulfed in the span of about 10 minutes. So that's some signs of strength in my opinion. And we just want to try and follow those. So it's pullback in the T-triples, south of VWAP back into $39. And then we're going to look to take a potential long there. Moving forward, let's see what we got going on with Palantir. How have you been performing today? Not too good. I mean, but still starting to recover with the overall market. That's not bad whatsoever, guys. AMD, Gorev's long. This one off of the lows, probably off this engulfing print, maybe some stopping volume as you are now starting to break that downtrend. So not a bad look whatsoever. 5-minute candle, you get an additional one, open up on the backside of this trend, and then off to the races you can go. Circle. We were talking about this name a lot last week. How does it look on the daily? Ooh, okay. I mean, you drop from 137 all the way to $93. That's not a good look. You just go bear market and just in the span of a couple of days, which we find as of late takes typically a little bit longer. Doesn't seem to be the case when the momentum and the sentiment is negative. Robinhood, 67 bucks. Wow.
Where was it? Like, what's the high again?
It's like 150, dude.
Jeez.
Yeah, that is not good. Yeah, considering I bought more at 122, and I won't be buying any more. I did sell some around 1 something, bought more back at 122. I think it was like 130, and I bought some more at 122 or something. But now you're down 60% off of that previous 154 high. That is absolutely disastrous and not fun to sit through, that's for sure. So be patient. We're waiting for IBIT to come into play. We're waiting for the NASDAQ to get that pullback. Pull up that super chat, people.
I got it.
All right, you got it?
Let's go with Mopar.
Yeah, I thought, there we go. That's what we're going to put up. Snow people, good morning. Sharif, Turb doesn't hurt my feelings at this level, and I'm thinking of going long here. Thoughts?
Ooh, okay. Mopar, we'll get that in 1 second, but let's look at Turban. I like calling it Turban. TURB. What do we got here, Joey? Let's look to the 5. Your boy, son of Daniel Cheese. I like that. Thank you very much, brother, for the $5 super chat, doing it live. So Turbine on the day displeases me. It doesn't have much to work with other than a range, 265, 260 at the outlier. And then clearly $3, somebody selling up a storm, and they start selling pretty aggressively right at that 90 penny level. You can see those topping tails. We do breach it momentarily at 815, the high of which is 310. But we're up 8%, almost 9. So let's put some respect on this one's name. And let's look at the hourly here because he was talking swing. All right, okay, I see where you're going with that. We have an unbroken downtrend essentially for a period of days, quite frankly. Let's go with this. So from the highs, the local highs on March 9th, the high of which was 650, we put in a plethora of lower highs. We seem to find a bit of a base, though, on the 26th, and now you've had 26 update, 27 update, and for now, underline that, for now, on the 30th, we also have an update to the tune of 8 4/5. So I don't dislike what you're saying. Let's see what we're talking about here in terms of resistance. We still have that pesky $3 area that we need to clear. And as you can see here on the hourly, a lot of topping tails, son of Daniel, through 3, meaning that the shorts, as you know, one would expect, getting pretty aggressive at that $3 level. I'm seeing BFRGs trying to make a move here. 3 green candles on the 5 trying to make a move. It's coming into 135, could be hitting 140, 142 area high soon. BFRG, not on the screen, but I'm watching on the side. Back to Turbine over here, TURB. So we need to clear 3. That would make me feel a lot more comfortable. Then if we get above 3, what are we doing here in terms of resistance? Well, we have some interactions with this 375 area. I get we did reject 350 a couple of times, but there's been a lot of 375 to 4-ish. So I don't mind your trade at all, but I would be quite attentive, son of Daniel, to see if we can clear that $3 area, and if we can on a closing basis, that would make me feel a lot more comfortable. But you got to love how it held that $150 area. That $150 area came in as money, and it was also an area we had looked at before, whether it was on March 4th or March 5th. That $150 did come in to play as some support. Thank you very much, son of Daniel, for that. Also, Mopar for life dropping $4.99, $5 super chat. We thank you for that. Pre-dawn surprise, question mark, back in 03. Oh no, so you're an Iraq war vet, eh, brother? Back in 03, we entered Iraq before 6 a.m., 10 p.m. Eastern. If it happens this way, a gap down is inevitable. Does this sound about right? I'm not going to argue with that. I don't think the market reacts well in any way. With boots on the ground. That's just my bias. I think that the market will interpret this to be a longer conflict if boots are on the ground. And if that is the bias, that this is going to be longer, I think we sell off more. Because nobody is going to say that oil disruptions are positive or net accretive to the market. I just don't see it happening. Whether it unfolds in the way that you're talking about there, a little bit of a difference, almost 25 years, not quite, between the two wars. The Iraq war in 03, I mean Iraq 2.0, not 1.0, and now Iran 1.0, obviously. I think it's a little bit different, but maybe the same modus operandi. We've also seen President Trump kind of take these decisive military actions on a Friday so that the market can kind of digest it over the weekend. And if there's anything positive, it doesn't, sell off as aggressively. Whether or not that happens, though, your guess is as good as mine. But a good theory and one good one to put out there, especially.
Absolutely. Dear Ollie, what's up, man? Long time no see. I don't know if he's mustering anything up, to be honest with you.
Who?
Well, he asked me, he's like, do you think, because he's saying Donald's been quiet on the socials for the past couple of days.
He was just threatening people this morning, bro. Like, what do you mean?
So
you see what he said? He's okay. He said he's making, he's negotiating now with more friendly factions. What he wrote: the United States of America is in serious discussions with a capital, new and more reasonable regime to end our military operations. Why are military operations in capital? In Iran. Great progress has been made, but if for any reason a deal is not shortly reached, which it probably will be, and if the Hormuz Strait is not immediately, quote, open for business, close quote, we will conclude our lovely stay in Iran by blowing up and completely obliterating all of their electric generating plants, oil wells, and Kharag Island, and possibly all desalination plants, oh my God, which we have purposefully not yet, quote, touched. This will be in retribution for our many soldiers and others that Iran has butchered and killed over the regime's 47 years, quote, reign of terror. Thank you for your attention on this matter. So I don't know if he's been that quiet today, Joey.
Yeah, I guess not, eh? But yeah, I mean, you just be cautious. I mean, I don't know if you have to pay attention to what he says, but you also want to listen to what the market's telling you as well, because the market's right at the end of the day. So just be cautious on what you got going on. I'm going to continuously say that over and over again. All right, agree with Sharif, but these threads don't really make the market. Not anymore, right? I think the market's digested a lot of that a couple of weeks ago when we seen it was extremely headline sensitive. You had these tweets and these truths posted and everything along those lines. I just don't think the market volatility in that aspect is overly sustainable, even though you still have the odd pop in oil. But we've seen some dramatic moves and some crazy fluctuations over the past couple of weeks, that's for sure. All right, guys, now moving forward, we got that pullback just above 39, not the level that I wanted to, and that's totally fine because it's starting to come back in. And I was like, you know what, if it breaks this pivot, then maybe I'd take a little bit of a long. But considering we failed to establish a new high right here. Now we're only a couple pennies away from getting that order that we want. Got to keep an eye on the big boys, as I typically say, if we're trading the Nasdaq. So, dear Oli, still wanted to send you some Swiss chocolate. Oh yeah, I know, brother. We haven't seen you in quite some time. Glad that you've still been watching and everything along those lines. And glad to see you back in the chat. You remember Dear Ollie?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, man, it's Dear Ollie.
It's been a minute,
yeah,
man.
That's what I said. What's up, Ollie? It's been a minute. We don't forget, eh? Sure, you know what they typically say. People don't forget. Exactly. So, aside from that, guys, pullback coming in play right now, and we're going to be able to get a long. I want to put something on for you guys, but we want to put on the right trade. We only had one here today. Katina Man had two. Neil was short Bitcoin as well, too. So there's some solid ones, and this is essentially what you need to get going. A nice downtrend, and then eventually we had that engulfing pattern, stops us out break even. No issues whatsoever, because you can see we're clearly double topping up around that 38.45 level. What is the open interest on Bitcoin telling us, Sharif? Let's take a look at that right now, brother, before we send it back to you. I know it was, we got vacation mode about to be immense right there.
So yeah, I tried to. I thought I was slick, right? Usually I get my hair cut on Saturday. I'm like, no, I'm gonna get it on Monday so I can look fresh.
Oh, it's closed.
No, he's there. Or sorry, they're open, but my guy needed a day off. So now I gotta go to a new barber today. The guy who owns the joint. That is risky.
Just before
I don't like going to a new barber.
Vacation. I can send you to my guy. He's good.
Are you kidding me, man? Like I'm going 2 seats down, and I'm like worried about it. You want me to go to an entirely different area?
You can leave your hair fade up to me, man. I have to send you to the right place.
There goes ASTC, Joey.
There you go.
We're in at 17. Here comes 40. We're looking for the move above 50. We know for a fact that there is selling at 50. So I'm not getting too excited quite yet, especially because, you know, the candle hasn't even closed, nor has it breached that prior area high. But we're going to wet the beak, and I'm going to add into this position, quite frankly. If we get the big breakout, I'm going to add. But for the moment, there's no breakout, right back into the area where I got in. So we're going to continue to deal with this consolidation. Let's see if it holds that $5 area. We can pick up a bit more.
Let me show this here quick. Yeah. So at $39, guys, we have a little bit of a supply zone here on IBIT, right at that 13,500 contracts at that specific level. And if you continue to climb significantly higher, back up to 45, which there's a 0% chance that the market is saying that we get back there by the end of the week, by Thursday, that is. 18,000 over there, 16,000, then you have another 18,400 up at $49. Zero chance. So these were written a long time ago, just saying that, yeah, Bitcoin will not be climbing, nor will IBIT, obviously, the ETF to Bitcoin. I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, absolutely. Right back into my entry again is ASTC. So we took like almost nothing out. So we're still holding here. Now, my bias is if this holds, and it looks to me like it's doing a pretty good job of holding, not only 5, but clearly the volume weighted average price. It hasn't breached VWAP. I'm in small shares here because number one, I'm negative on the day, and I want to add to the tally before I leave on vacation. Number two, it hasn't shown me exactly what I need to see here in order to add size, right? If it gets above that 5.5 and it shows it's taking out some sellers, we're going to add into the position into the highs. But for now, nothing. Kais, a couple of movers here. UGRO is moving. It just got into the high of the day. It's almost up 60 points, 58.5, 28.56 high, dropping below 28. I'm willing to bet here. Let me just look. 21 penny spread, 30 penny spread on UGRO. Thanks to my scanner there. But if you guys have this, I really do recommend you throw in the spread column on your scanner so you can immediately see what the spread is, and you don't need to load it up, so you can immediately identify if it fits within your risk parameter or not. But UGRO is at the high of the day. There's nothing bad to say about that. SST as well is making a nice move here above 4. It's a bit of a compression pattern, if I had to guess. With lower highs, but very clearly higher lows as well. So you're getting that kind of sideways triangle of compression. A move above, I think, previous area high at 433 sets you on a course for maybe a 450 touch. It's a 447 high of day, but as you can see, we've printed almost nothing on a closing basis above 4.25. So that needs to factor into your thinking as well. And here comes ASTC again into 35. If we get a decided and a clean 50 break, I'm going to add into the position for a possible move into 6. And if it gets really gangster, here comes 50. I'm going to wet the beak. No, we're not going to wet the beak, Joey, because it doesn't spend any discernible amount of time. We're going to go 45. What do you got there, Joey? You seem like you're pumped about something.
Yeah, we got that little breakout. The volume, it's before I forget what trade it was specifically, but I'm like, hey, something funky is going on. This isn't the exact same scenario. I just took off 40% right there. But what happened was that we started to move a little bit. I seen the volume really start to uptick, and I'm like, all right, let's rock and roll on this trade. It may not be continued or sustained, but I'm liking what we're seeing right now.
Get it, Joey.
Sharif. Yes, sir. We'll take a little bit more off up there. So we hit that 10 cents. I was only risking a couple pennies, to be frank with you. And I have actually, what did I just take off right there? So I have 50% remaining of this position. Let's see if we can head into 35s, into 40s, because we have Microsoft climbing back towards the high of the day. Positive note, check. We have NVDA starting to climb a little bit. Check mark. Apple, not doing too much, Sharif. Sorry about that one there, brother. Microsoft climbing. Amazon really ripping towards the high of the day.
Triple, it's Ackman. Ackman's buying.
Triple check mark on that one there, my brother. Let's go Aki Berg. Do you know who Aki Berg is?
No.
Former
is he Ackman's bird?
No, Aki Berg, a former Toronto Maple Leaf. If you ever curious. Now sitting on 30%.
They're doing very well this year from what I see.
Yeah, I mean, we went from 9 years of like straight playoffs to potentially tanking and trying to get a top 5 pick, and no success. I was reading an article the other day, actually, it's just how the Toronto Maple Leafs needed Austin Matthews to be what Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is for the Toronto Blue Jays. And I'll tell you one thing, so after the first couple of years, you had the hype, right? But the boys just never really lived up to the hype. They were doing things that I didn't particularly like. And I didn't love the squad after about year 3 or 4, right? But I'll tell you one thing about this Blue Jays team.
Tell me.
Very likable. Ernie Clement, a former hockey guy.
Oh, is he?
Yeah. I like that. And you love Vladdy's just passion for the game.
How can you not like Vladdy?
And you never seen that with the Toronto Maple Leafs, to be honest with you.
I respect that. I mean, you're not the first person to say that. All right, ASTC is above the $0.5 momentarily, zigging and zagging here. We added into the position on the higher low. I'm looking for a decisive move above the $0.5. $0.5, knowing full well it has not manifested on the day. We're positive on it for the current trade. Negative, well, no, I'm actually positive on the day now. Nice. Negative on the day still because BFRG has put me negative on the day. We're continuing to watch huge selling into the $0.5. It makes me feel like I should be getting out here because we can't shake the sellers here. The $0.5 seller keeps rearing their ugly head, but quite frankly, we have higher lows. And here we are with the $0.5 again. Seller at 48, can't shake the seller. So just time to watch. Really, there's nothing, you guys can see exactly what I'm seeing here, where the selling is coming into the high 40s. And then there we go. We get an aggressive profit taker bringing us down back into the 30s. I like the higher lows here. Prior bar low, just to give you an idea, is 509. Current bar low is 519. Here's 48 again, 49, 50 showing up, 51. Momentarily moving above the $0.5, but no continuation. Again, same nonsense, Joey. So let's see if we can, hold here. I don't want to take out any more, quite frankly, because now my cost basis is 26, where I added originally it was 17. So I'd like to see this through. There's the $0.5 again, and there's more selling into the $0.5. We haven't really printed anything in the 60s quite yet. Let's go ahead and put a tester in the low 60s to see if there's any liquidity there. 55 just showed up momentarily. There it is again, seller at 55. I haven't seen anything above 55. Did I just see 56 there? What's current candle high? Current candle high is 57. So there we go again, watching. Yeah, there's just so much selling at this level. You just feel like, when the shorts are in control, yeah, it's kind of apparent whether or not we can take them out here. It's 56, good, 57, 59, nice move up. No closing basis yet though on this candle. So just because we're above 50 now, it means bupkis to me. We need to close above this level. So now we did close. We closed pretty much near the highs and coming back down into the $0.5. Let's see if this candle continues with the higher low, higher high pattern, because now we're below the $0.5. So yeah, this is a little more of this, a little bit more of that. I think I should be adding into this, quite frankly, because it's giving me that curling pattern off the volume weighted average price. Yeah, this seems bullish to me, guys. I do think that this might continue in the 575, possibly 6. Prior bar high, 557. Current bar high, 559. Let's see if we can get above that, Joe. I'm going to send it to you.
Absolutely. All right, guys, so that was a nice little scalp for us. We go heavy. We're looking at the tape, the time and sales. IGRO fighting, I was just about to message you, but let's talk a little bit about the NASDAQ and what we just put on for this trade. So I got stopped out 30%, and I'm glad as it came back towards our break even. I'm like, let's just get out because the market is choppy. The chances of it coming back to our break even entry, considering I didn't have the best one, is more or less a momentum play, right? So that was a nice little scalp there on the T-triple-Qs. We'll take that, only risking a couple pennies. We did get up to that 39.35 level, but I didn't get that top tick. Pretty close though, so we'll be satisfied with that. Just add a little bit more realized to today's session. But yeah, IGRO fighting, that Alexa Grasso move was absolutely disgusting. That was that was just pure skill and talent. Didn't even hit the floor and already in the chokehold. But she did that to Valentina Shevchenko. One mistake grabs your back.
Straight to choke. Straight
to the choke. All right. So, Clue, have fun, enjoy, be safe. She's saying they're saying goodbye to you and I. They're going to go party in Vegas for quite some time.
Are they coming to Punta Cana?
No, they're going to Vegas.
Okay.
Vegas, Canada. Okay. All right, Adair.
LMT pushing lower here. I'm seeing reports that LMT was allegedly breached. So Lockheed Martin, according to a threat actor advertising an alleged complete dump of some of the company's data here on the dark web. So again, LMT, according to a threat actor, they're claiming that they breached this company's data. Again, no confirmation yet, but LMT is pushing lower very much at low of days here. Back to you.
Thank you
very much.
So yeah, this was the trade on the NASDAQ, guys. You just have to take a couple of pennies, especially if you're going long. You have to be prepared to scalp and wait for those prime time opportunities to get involved. We'll go over IBIT one more time as it failed to put in a new high right here at 38.45, and then now starting to come back in a little bit, guys. Might head towards this key pivot. If you fail to establish a new low and break this 38.20 pivot, then that can give you an opportunity to look for some consolidation and then potentially where the price is going to be turning around. See you, have fun. I know. Sorry, Clue. I didn't mean to. I don't know. I don't know why I
What?
thought it. He's like, stop calling me a girl. It's a guy. I don't know.
Oh,
why I
I've
said-
done that before.
Yeah,
Angry
yeah. I don't-
wife. We made that mistake
Yeah, exactly.
too.
I don't know why I did that, Clue. I apologize. But
done
have
that.
fun, be safe, and don't spend it all in one place, as I typically like to say. I know Sharif can go spend it all in one.
I'm not.
way.
Come on now, man. I'm pretty disciplined.
No, you're disciplined, man. I give you that. You'll have fun where you're going. I've been to where Sharif is going. He's going to have a blast. Hit the water slides.
Pumped,
That's fun.
man.
The beach is great, and everything along those lines.
Party
so.
resort, Joey.
Yeah,
We're gonna do a live, my boy.
Don't let me see you sliding on the table there, because that's what they do. That's what they do at that
That's
one there.
crazy.
Yeah, yeah. So
Nobody's
don't
gonna
let me
slide on
catch
the
you on
table
their
there.
IG
Oh,
page
no.
sliding there. All right, IBIT heading towards the lower end of the trade, the
Unbelievable.
trend. Sorry, we're gonna wait for some turnaround levels, and then we'll see if we can find something. I was looking at Tesla not too long ago, but look how the price action is. Really choppy, guys. We want to try to find a definitive trend here.
Guys, look at this. This is madness. So I did add into this position. I had to because we were breaking out, and then all hell broke loose. Into 567. You breach prior bar high. Look at this candle. Look what this candle just did to everybody. Unreal. Right back down into VWAP. Thank God I got the hell out of there. But this is a tough day to trade these small cap gappers, let me tell you, because they are, as Luis would say, bid non-compliant, just not following trends. So we're going to have to take it easy. Now, we did okay on the way up, scalp. I did add into the highs, you can see there, because we were looking for that move into 6, but my goodness. Yeah, everybody's saying JCSE. Let's bring that up. Thank you, Fluffy. I appreciate you. I saw Casey talking about it. TT Mass as well, bringing that into everybody's attention. JCSE. Just really trying to focus on the other one. Okay, so 150 price spike up 36%, 35%. Topping tail candle closed at 137, popped into 150, dropping down into 1 1/3. There could be support at 130 given the 2 topping tail candles in the pre-market there. So no continuation right now above the $0.50. Moreover, you could be getting a buying opportunity here in the 130 because there was resistance at that level. So I'm going to have to take it a little easy today, guys. We're 0 for 2 now, negative on ASTC after being positive on it. It's non-compliant, as you can see. So we'll have to pick it up off key areas of support. Other than that, I don't think the breakout trade is in the cards today, at least not yet. And the reason I say support is because look at all these bottoming tail candles right off VWAP that would pay. So maybe the idea here is to put in a resting order at the volume weighted average price or just south of the $0.50, try to pick up those money fills, and then maybe we can give the breakout trade a try when we've got that backstop. But for now, gonna have to steer clear. We're gonna go to Adair for happening now, then Neil's lesson of the day.
There's the S&P 500 on the 15-minute chart, certainly off of its lows, but also nowhere near its highs, which were made really early in the session here. NASDAQ looking relatively similar. We had commentary from Fed Chair Powell earlier today. I'll get to that in a second, but be aware, 1 p.m., White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt to be issuing a press briefing that was not initially on President Trump's schedule for the day. So just be aware, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt in just under an hour from now. I'll, of course, cover that for you all. Let's talk about USO. This is currently at intraday highs and actually breaking new intraday highs. A couple different comments, of course, on this space. We talked a couple times now about that post from U.S. President Trump on Truth Social saying that he believes the conflict will end soon. But hey, if it does not necessarily end soon, then they're going to be in this position where they'll be striking Iran's oil facilities, including the Kharag Island, until they get that Strait of Hormuz reopened. Furthermore, some comments coming on the subject from Feds Myron as well, saying that higher oil prices could be accelerating cooling in the labor market. Now, Feds Myron, as mentioned, not the only Fed to be speaking today. Feds Myron was incredibly dovish. We talked about that. He basically said that he thinks the Fed can just keep cutting rates. He thinks that they can get actually to a neutral rate a year from now, and that over the next year they can cut rates in a total by up to 1 percentage point. Fed Chair Powell saying that, hey, the Fed's in a good place right now. Not really any need to be reactive as of this time. So 2 distinctly different viewpoints coming from 2 distinctly different members of the Fed. Let's talk here about LMT. As mentioned a couple minutes ago, this one did push a little bit lower, seeing some claims on the internet that a threat actor said that they hacked into and then leaked some LMT data onto the dark web. And cybersecurity was already on watch regardless because CrowdStrike and Palo Alto both getting some positive analyst notes. CrowdStrike with an upgrade and a $450 price target from Wolf Research, and Palo Alto Networks, who had Barclays issuing a positive note in the stock, saying that they think it's pretty bullish that CEO Nikesh Arora purchased $10 million worth of shares on the open market. Make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, put it on your listening ears. Because Neil has a lesson and maybe a food review for us all. Neil, what's today's lesson going to be about?
Thank you, Adair. And the lesson of the day is don't trust the flags with our lunch. We'll get to that a little bit later. No, there was a discussion this morning, and we're talking about like consistency, or at least I was sort of addressing like what makes a consistent trader or consistently profitable. And there's something that I left out of it that I wanted to fill in, because it's a lot of times, you know, things are moving fast, and it was right at the end, and we got right into 11 o'clock and we threw you guys to the midday. But one of the biggest aspects of the whole notion, which I was trying to get across, which is ensure that when you have a trade that is like an A+, or works out perfectly, or it's like as close to perfect as it can be, or whatever, or it's your best trade of the week, or it's your best trade of the month, ensure that when you take that type of a trade, like you're not losing on those trades more than you could win. And something that gets mentioned so often is risk to reward, and oftentimes we don't do enough to unpack risk to reward, because it's a very important concept. But let's try to break it down in the most simple way possible, because I have one trade which I think, well, I have a few that I actually want to go over, but I'll talk about SoFi because it's about the most structured as it's going to get. Now, the first thing you always determine is how much are you risking on that trade and that style of trade or that setup of a trade. And then you have an idea of how much that trade costs you. And then if that trade goes perfectly to plan, how much it is that you make. So I'll give you the example here in SoFi because it's relatively simple. Like this was not a not difficult sort of setup. It was a short the pop. It was an obvious resistance level from Friday, and it had a very clean range that it showed you on Friday, if we can come to the chart, Andre. So we came into this high. We basically, I should say, the short is right in here, 15.49. The topping tail candle ends up at 57. So we're risking 8, maybe 9 cents with slippage in that situation. The first bid out is at 1-to-1, and we're getting out 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. The second bid out is at 2-to-1. A little bit more extended on the third, so I can't really say it wasn't really 3-to-1. It was more like 3.5-to-1. What it works out to, pretty simply, is a lot of times you'd say, oh, but that's a 3-to-1 trade. Well, it's not a 3-to-1 or a 3.5-to-1 trade because we're getting a third, a third, a third. Now let's imagine we don't get the absolute bottom in here. Really, it's pretty easy to see. You're averaging a 2-to-1. It's slightly better than a 2-to-1 in this particular case because I happen to get that bottoming tail wick and not out somewhere in here. But the important thing is that one fell all the way into target and ends up a 2-to-1 trade. Now imagine it only goes a couple of steps down, and this last out, right in here, I leave to my original stop. It's pretty easy to imagine. I get a third out at 1-to-1. I get a third out at 2-to-1, and then I lose on that last third to 1. So all of these two cancel out, and I only get the 2. You're still up on the trade, but I'm only making the 2 on a third. So really, I'm doing worse than that one, slightly worse than that 1-to-1. But what's something that I always do when I try to hold for that low? I get out if it breaks the trend. Meaning I don't, if it comes all the way here and it gets the second point, gets my second target, and doesn't make the low and breaks the trend and gets back up, I'm usually getting out in front of VWAP. That actually locks it in almost all times at or just slightly better than the 1-to-1. Meaning even if it doesn't go all the way down, comes all the way back up and breaks it out, I'm not losing to there. I'll usually be out somewhere in here, and I'll have a trade which works out to have still been better than 1-to-1. So I don't need it to go perfect. Because remember, when you lose, you are often losing. And tell you this, I don't care what trader you are, I've seen it time and time again. When you're dead wrong, you're wrong for all of it. So everything from risk to reward comes down to relative to down. You've lost all of it. That's the way I want. I don't want to look at it when I only lose on a third or a quarter, because no, I'm going to talk about from when I lose all of it. If it doesn't go all the way, I'm still going to get myself a 1-to-1, and I can show you an example of a situation like that. We get a couple of legs push, we break out on IBIT. In this particular case, because it broke this trend pretty shallow and doesn't get anywhere, kind of up to the first exit point. On this trade, I'll be a slightly better than 1-to-1. I had a prior bar exit point. It goes 2 steps, doesn't get to the low to get that last out, but because I trail out, I'm going to end up with just slightly better than like 1.5 to 1 in this situation. Here's the rub with that, and this is where you understand that there is no free lunch. Everything is a trade-off. So you're going to see from that style of trade, when you watch when I'm right and watch when I'm wrong, the stops are always pretty tight, the R&R is always really good, and therefore I'm consistent, and therefore I have very, very few red days. But what do you give up for that consistency? Well, that trail out here, that locks it in, like this can't turn into a red trade, like this will be better than 1-to-1, it'll be 1.5 to 1, but it's getting trailed out there and then it goes a lot further. That's part of the game. It's things like Intel, where I didn't get all into Intel, so in absolute fairness to myself, I didn't get all into this trade. It wasn't one of my top ideas. So when it's set up, it was a B, not an A for me, so I don't get into all of it. But then when I have an initial exit and lose on that, sometimes when you have a relatively tight stop or go risk off or don't get all into position because it doesn't set up all the way, or when you get out at targets like I do, then you sometimes will miss on the home run trade. That's just part of it. And so you have to determine what style of trader you're going to be. Now, for me, I'm going to do what has worked for me over a long period of time. You know from any statistic you ever hear out there that most traders fail, and a very large proportion of traders do not actually make profits. So I like the foundation of being pretty secure that I'll be green on the strategies that I use. And I want to also say one last thing before I get to the lunch and throw you guys back to the midday. The manner in which I evaluate or I look at this risk to reward, or how I make sure my good decisions turn into winning trades, or profitable trades is how you should explain it, not winning trades. It should be profitable trades is what you should say. Or how I determine how I do not lose too big on any position. That's something that I will use across any strategy, whether I'm talking about momentum trading, mean reversion trading, spread trading, tight stocks in tight ranges, trading an IPO one day, trading a closed trade, whatever it might be. All of these principles always apply. Therefore, I don't have to worry about which strategy I'm doing or how many shares or any of that nonsense. That's all noise. The structure is making sure that the risk to reward means when I make a correct decision, I'm winning enough relative to what I would lose if I am dead wrong on the trade. And then at that point, I really only need to be 50-50 if I do that right. So if I'm better than 50-50, then I'm a green trader. And I think that's the thing that gets so lost, is most traders don't try to be that granular. I am. That's what allows you to be calm a lot of times. And it's regardless of what strategy, because I apply the same methodology to every style of trade or every type of trade that I execute. So it's just like points. It's like being a poker player. You just play the game and the pot odds and decisions as you see them. So that's what it's all about. I know we're going to go, I think we're going to go to Adair before we jump back over to the midday, guys. I can only give the lunch a 6.8 because the chicken is dry. It is what it is, and I don't even understand why they're calling it a Mexican salad when it's just a plain regular salad. Anyways, apparently GME news.
GME moving higher here, guys. On Substack, Michael Burry said that he's purchased more GameStop today. So again, GME pushing higher after Michael Burry announces that he's added to his GME position. Back to you.
Yeah, nice pop up there on GameStop. I saw AMC moving as well, probably moving in sympathy, but it got above the dollar. I didn't even realize that AMC was below the dollar. It's just got into the high day of 104. What are you looking at?
Yeah, so what I want to do here, guys, is make sure you tune in. Check out TikTok as well. We're live here. I'm going to be here. I don't know what it is. I can sign in one day. I can't the next. But we're involved with this now. We're going to go over a couple questions. Shout out to Braverly in the chat as well, too, our TikTok mod. But what we are going to look at is PR, and that's going to be Permian Resources, guys. This thing has been absolutely monstrous. The oil trade, Texas-based company right here. And sure enough, look at this move all the way from 13 bucks January at the beginning of the year to where we're currently sitting at right now, 61.50. So that's a big-time move in Permian. So, all right, moving forward, guys. What is? Hold on, I'm going to take a look at this one more time and see what we got going on. Do overview. Yeah, so Permian Resources, what is his PE at right now? 17, that's not too bad whatsoever. High, 52-week high, 21.80, low of $9.69. Volume today, 4.2 million, with an $18.4 billion market cap. Now, guys, as for the longs in IBIT, I don't think we're going to get that right now, as USO is really starting to climb higher. I'm keeping my eye out on that. I really want to wait for a pullback. You do have that breakout as the market continues to slide. So you get the inverse correlation once again, a nice uptick here in USO. So I'm going to continue to monitor this name as it punched through that 128 level. Is there going to be another opportunity here in the NASDAQ? Possibly. What we can take into consideration is that 563. If we break down, sure enough, there might be some continuation, and then the low of the day break of 561, or we can continuously bounce off of the backside of this, or the front end of that trend there, guys. Now, IBIT trade, pretty good one. We'll take that. Definitely our better winner on today's session, but also with the TQQs, I'm happy to have gotten out. We had that scalp, climbs higher. We take those couple of cents, only 10 cents, but it's better than nothing, because imagine if I held this through to my original stop, we would have took that full hit. And then if I didn't get out when I was supposed to, which is a big no-no, that would have been a substantial hit to the downside there on the NASDAQ. USO under 128 may be done going higher. Let's see. We'll pull it up here. I want to take a look at the options chain on USO before we send it back over to Street and see what he has. He has no positions on, neither do I. It's been a choppy one. And I think with that narrative, we might see some more downside. So I'm going to wait to see if we can get at the higher end of the range. And then sure enough, maybe we can just really drastically increase our risk to reward and catch the lower end of the range as well, especially on on a day like today. Now, Tesla, or this is USO, guys, 130. I don't know how much this is going to come into play, but look how much bigger the size is at that 130 mark than across the board. Even you're in the money contracts, right? So 11,000 there, 11,100, and then the rest are in the hundreds. You got 2,000 here, 2,000, but it's substantially bigger at these two marks. And what are the chances at 130 and 140 having the exact same open interest and only 1,000 contracts difference in volume? That's fishy, if you ask me, to be honest with you.
All right, Joey. We're trying JCSE. Let's see if this one continues. Just got into 63. I saw a local buyer at 55. Let's see if 55 holds, still showing 60. High day 63. Good pattern above the 10 EMA, but it did dilly-dally with the $0.5 initially resistance. I don't know if we've cleared it with enough of a move. What was that noise? Ooh. Is that Ram? Look, I looked over. I'm like, Andre never plays that noise. It's Ram on the ones and twos. Get it, Ram. Dilly dally. Yes, I did. Is that Ram? It is the Ram, brother. She's quiet now, but continuing to watch her. There's a 55 buyer still showing okay there. The 55 buyer just got shellacked. Let's see if they step back in. Bigger move up, but it's turning into a topping tail candle. My out is below the $0.5. Let's see if the $0.5 buyers step in, because certainly we're getting selling at around the 60 penny level with no continuation above. So continuing to watch that. Also keeping an eye on BFRG. That one is still holding above VWAP, but really not strong at the moment. So this one seems to be the strongest of the bunch. There's also BBWI, which I've said very little about, which just got into the high of the day at 1872. So let's keep an eye here on JCSE. Let's see if this one can pop up into $0.75. I'm trying to be patient with it. I spot resistance at 50 initially with really no closing prints on the one above that level. It hasn't come back in to test that 50 penny level ever since clearing it. So I don't really know whether the buyers are going to step in at that level or not. We're going to have to wait and see. If we drop down, I'll be keeping a close eye on that. But for the moment, we're going to go back up to Adair.
Seeing more comments here from Iran on the conflict in the Middle East. We kind of heard similar stuff already, but I think this is mostly interesting because it does contradict some of the comments that were made by President Trump this morning on Truth Social. Iran's foreign minister spokesperson saying that Iran received a message through its intermediary about the U.S. seeking discussions, but they dismissed the demands as excessive and illogical. Furthermore, saying that if there are any Pakistan-led meetings concerning the war, Iran's not going to participate at all. Back to you.
All right, what do you got, Joey?
Yeah, man, we're in some USO right now. You can see at 81. So let's see if we can get this trade working for us. We're waiting for that pullback. Market's heading lower, and sure enough, we might get a little bit of a pop. So we're looking for that inverse correlation here, essentially on USO compared to the NASDAQ. But I'm not going to be holding on to this very long, right? If it breaks this 62s, I'm at a dodge. So I'm looking for it to hold this support level, and then sure enough, it's not looking like it's going right now. So we had that pullback breakout. It might be a little bit deeper. I have no issues with re-engaging. This was just a little bit of a tester, and I don't have too many shares on whatsoever. So again, it's either going to come up into that 129.40 level, retest that previous pivot high, or it's going to break down through that 128.60 mark, and then we get out of dodge. So we'll give it 20 cents. We'll go down to 61s. If it breaks, then it's see you later, and we'll find another opportunity on USO. Now, as for the market, it's not looking good, guys, as we are almost at the low of the day. We have NVDA continuing to slide as well. I thought we'd get a little bit more of an uptick here in USO, considering the market's bleeding. So we'll have to be a little bit more patient on that one, but we don't want to go hold it past our stop, especially if this pullback is drastically deeper into that 128 mark. All right, so that's what the game plan here in USO. Only a couple more pennies until we get that stop. But the tape's pretty strong. Like I like what we got going on right here. It's not bad whatsoever. Put our filter on, nothing from that size. So we'll have to make it a little bit smaller. Pull this up, go 3,000 on. Oh, whoa, what a drastic tank. Take the eyes off the screen for a second, and USO really tanks. That's not good. We don't want that. As we now take a little bit hit or a bigger of a loss than what we want. Good thing we started really small on this one. If it continues to bleed into that 127.98 level, we don't want any part of this. Let's get out of USO and then see if we can find another opportunity to get involved on this one. Adair.
SOFI and Robinhood both dropping here, but I think Robinhood getting hit much harder than SoFi. E-Trade reportedly going to be leading the handling of the SpaceX IPO sales to small retail investors, and SpaceX now reportedly considering cutting Robinhood and SoFi out of the IPO as these brokerages are negotiating for a price. So once again, E-Trade reportedly in for the SpaceX IPO. Robinhood and SoFi could be out. Back to you.
Thank you for that. So yeah, there it is. USO is moving lower, guys. Maybe we avoid that one. We'll go 2 for 3 right now, considering we had the IBIT trade, that scalp on the NASDAQ, and looking for a little bit of a continuation and a test of this breakup, but we're not getting it exactly yet. I'm not going to give up on it just in case we do see some indecision prints around some lows that I'd be looking for. But other than that, not quite an inverse like we were seeing a couple of weeks ago, a month ago or so, between the NASDAQ and USO. If the NASDAQ was putting in new lows, you would see this be putting in new highs, and that's just not the case right now. So we'll be patient, right on script for fake breakout. Yeah, well, I wouldn't necessarily call this a fake breakout, to be honest with you. You want to see how it retests. What I would necessarily call a fake breakout is the volume is there, right? So if you get a retest in any indecision prints, then maybe you can get a continuation. You have 20 minutes or 25 minutes of just consecutive buying right here. I'm not going to call this a fake breakout. What I will is this little scalp that we caught on the TQs. It's going to be right around this neck of the woods on the NASDAQ on the triple Qs. You break through, you almost test that pivot high. So you punch through these resistance zones, you liquidity grab all the shorts that have stops right here, and then eventually you just continue to move a little bit lower on that one. So glad that we got out of that USO. Take a paper cut on that one. Give a little bit back, but nothing compared, only about 10% of what we have locked in already. So we'll be patient, wait for that 128 mark to come into play, and then we'll look for some levels to engage with on USO.
All right, man. ASTC is trying to hold up here above VWAP and kind of work its way back above 5, trying to make its way back up into 5.5. We'll see if this one's got the juice to take out some of the sellers at 5.25. 5.25 was resistance, and then support. Now it's acting as resistance ever since we dropped below VWAP for the first time, I think, basically since the breakout at 10:15. So this one is showing some intentions of resetting. Whether or not, your guess is as good as mine. I'm going to keep my eye out on that. I'm just going to put my stop here on JCSE into the area low. Let's see if that one wants to hold up as well. But yeah, this one, ASTC, very consolidative, but a couple of false breakouts, namely the one into 5 3/4, and then it loses the bid entirely, drops $1 into 4 3/4, where we get stopped out, and now here we are trading below 5 1/4. So I'm going to continue to watch that, see if that one wants to run up. But I want to mention UGRO is making yet another move to try to take out 27. It's got a wide spread though, UGRO. Right now it's a $1.40 spread. So be careful with this one. 27 approaching here shortly with a $29 high. Lots of resistance though into 28, and only one closing print above that $28 level, which was the 1145 candle on the 5-minute chart. That is UGRO, but it's a little spready for my liking. BBWI, very trend respectful, I guess that's the word I'm looking for there. Momentarily breaches a 10 EMA, but then reclaims it pretty quickly, and there it is, making another area high. 1880 is the level there on BBWI. What else is moving here, man? GEVO, we were talking about this one, didn't do anything on that, but coming back into 280. I like that 275 level on GEVO. If we can put an order there, that was initial resistance, and by the time it makes it down there, could be where the volume weighted average price is showing, because right now it's showing 7.3 or 7.4, so it could be there momentarily. BFRG also trying to break trend. It was basically an unbroken downtrend on this one. Now you get a couple of green candles in a row. The first, I would say, since 11:30, 11:35. Let's see if this one can put 2 or 3 in a row so we can get away from this lower trend line. It's still up, I want to say, 140% on the day, but been very, very choppy, as most of these have been. If it can get above the $0.25, I mean, I don't even want to say the $0.25 resistance here. The $0.25 is just, for maybe psychological purposes. The real selling has been coming in at 130. Only very few candles have closed above 130. So BFRG also in focus there. What else we got? SST is losing the bid quite aggressively. We were talking about this one being a compression pattern with higher lows, yet lower highs, and then we kind of saw how that one manifested with the breaking of the downtrend line, barely holding on to 3 1/3, which is the break-even point on the day for SST. This one was running last week, so stands to reason that there would be buyers stepping in at the $0.33 of a dollar, which is exactly what's happening, as it just took out the $0.50 now. So not a bad look on SST, but below VWAP and not tradable under my system anyway. So we'll see how that one looks. Holding just a tiny piece here on JCSE. Let's see if this one can make its way back above the $0.50. Just flashed a quick touch of the 50-penny area, and here's 51, looking for continuation. The high of the day is 63, but there's been a lot of buying for whatever reason south of the $0.50. I want to say the support level looks more along the lines of 40. So you have a few closing prints below 40, but most of the prints are at or above 40 pennies on JCSE. So if we get continuation into 63, I think we would have a good trade here, but this one not looking that good at the moment, to be quite honest with you. Who's halted here? Why is this halted? Just give me one sec. People are saying QNTM is halted. I was having a look. Is it volatility? Yeah, halted at 1207. It halted at 12. Quantum Biopharma QNTM is up 9%, but it's halted. So I'm not really sure what's going on there. We'll look at it in a second. But there goes JCSE into 56, 58 now. High of the day is 63. Watch out for resistance here, because this is the area where we've had a lot of trouble. Into 60s, and quite frankly, take profits, because these ones are not continuing today, and you can just feel that, right? Like they're failing. So I think when you do get the opportunity to wet your beak, maybe that's what you should do, because it doesn't show like one of these green, these big green days where we can get like triple digits on 3 or 4 of them, and then maybe even talk about quadruple digits. So This one is okay for now. It's at the high end of the range, but you know, if history is any guide, Joey, this is going to fail momentarily. I'm talking about JCSE, so we're going to keep tabs on that.
Glad that so I was looking to go long here, and I just couldn't catch the fill, and I'm glad about that here as it's heading towards this level. I don't think this is a long position just yet, so we'll have to be a little bit more patient. We don't want to get antsy or anything along those lines. So here it is, guys. Tesla, we were talking about this name not too long ago. Breaking down, not too good of a look, right? Consolidation, nice inverted hammer candle print above the volume-weighted average price, and then now you've established a new low of the day. I think it's only a couple moments away until we are going to put in a new one here with the NASDAQ. Katina, man, you still short the TQs? Still short NVDA. Good luck there, brother. I'm assuming I shouldn't assume because you know what that does. But considering that the market is relatively weak right now, wouldn't be surprised if it's right towards the low of the day. Now, as for our good friend in the chat, Rashid, let's take a look at Robinhood for you. It pains me to do this, to be honest with you. But I guess it's just the nature of the beast. When you go on these monstrous runs, right, it's just all fun and games. Let's kind of head over to a higher time frame. Fun and games? Not so much now, considering. So, life of the party, Robinhood goes on this substantial run from those April lows, and then now it's just giving back the majority of it, heading back towards $65 and looking like it's going to continue to slide. Nothing on the weekly is telling us that we're ready to turn around anytime soon, and the same thing with the daily. We got a little bit of a relief pop, I would call this, maybe up here into $84, and then you drop 28% just like that from that specific level, so 25% almost. So a really, really tough look, down 60% off of that previous 154 high. Robinhood, it's going to be the same narrative. It doesn't matter what the name of the stock is. You have to wait for some of these trend lines to be broken in order to get involved. Look at this one to the long side, and it's the same thing with Google and Netflix, the Microsofts, and whatever, regardless the name is. Sure enough, until we're on the backside of this, you see some sustained buying. Avoid it if you possibly can, because you're going to get into a world of trouble trying to continuously buy these falling knives, and you're just going to be mad at yourself. It's like, why wouldn't I just wait? You're not going to get the best price, right? That's just kind of the nature of the strategy. But if you wait at the right time, you're just putting a little bit more probability in your favor, which I think is extremely important when you have a market and a Mag 7 that are all respectively down around 20% at this point. So really, really tough look. USO starting to climb higher here. Do we get involved? I think so. I don't know, because what we have is essentially a wick touching into that support level at 128. Someone mentioned 128.28 or something along those lines. So you got pretty close. It was a low of around 124, and then now it's starting to find somewhat of a bounce. That's a good look there. I would have been long on this name. I'm not going to chase it at this point, so a retest of 128.40, then maybe we'll look to engage a little bit there. But I like what we have going on in Tesla just due to the fact that we're selling and the market is choppy. So if we're patient enough and wait for some indecision prints, we might be able to find somewhat of a bounce. But the momentum is most definitely really starting to pick up here, especially in NVDA as it heads towards the low of the day. You're only a couple pennies away now.
Man, MP Materials is down 9 3/4. I have no idea what's going on with the materials names today. Like, what is this? This name's getting shellacked. It's down 10.5% since the bell rang. You can tell somebody's offloading this. This is a dang sell program.
Yeah.
Unreal. What is going on?
I was talking with Jose the other day about just like the programs. It's just like when you see those and you have like, I think it's a time-based thing, and you see that consecutive selling, it's like, don't try to catch the bottom or anything. Just try to essentially go with the flow. Get in on a micro pullback. So something like MP, it's like until 11 o'clock, 11:30, and it's just steady down, and the buying and the pullbacks are so shallow. Just look to go with the flow and go short.
Yeah, no, I'm not even thinking about trading it.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying. I'm just saying in
that
general.
Does make sense, quite frankly. It's a name I'm invested in, and this has just been shellacked today. Wow, 9 3/4. So.
At least it's not down 60% off its highs.
Do you want to bet?
Is it?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But is it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I held this into 110, man. Let's look.
What is it at right now?
46. So 104. Sorry, 104. So 104 to right now. Okay,
all right,
55 and a half.
Yeah, all right, man.
Okay, so pretty close. Pretty close. Yeah, it's not a good look. All right, guys, continuing to watch here, JCSE as it dances at around 60 pennies. There's clearly a seller at 6. Let's see if we can kind of continue on with this one or what the situation is. I have a tester there at 162 to see if we can get filled in and around that level, but for the moment, nothing printing above 160. Prior bar high, which is the resistance level, is I think 59. So we didn't quite make it up to 60 on prior bar high. Current bar high is 58. I'm not sure why it's not letting me mouse over that. So JCSE, let's take a quick look. So on the 5, current bar high 158, prior bar high 159. So looking for a move here above the $0.50. Very, very bull flaggish. You know, with a bit of an upward tilt, if I had to say, but definitely selling at around 60 pennies. So be careful with where you get in on this one, as it can just turn on you in a second. We're in at 44s, showing me 55s. Bless you, Ram. Looking for the move into 62, give or take. That is the high of the day. Sorry, 63 is the high of the day. There's 57 again, 58 showing up, 59. So we did breach prior bar high. Let's see, 60 now. There's 61. I saw 61 flash. No continuation though, so you can see the aggressive profit taking at 60. So yeah, that's kind of the day we're having. The shorts are in control. I just love to be able to kind of look to one data point or 1 or 2 or 3 or some sort of cumulative data points where on the day I could kind of get a better sense of whether we're going to have continuation on these ones or whether they're going to fail at key support levels, fail to breach key technical levels. I know Luis gave us amazing data on his intranet. Got to do a lot more research with that, but that's where I struggle the most. I feel like with the days that you come in and some of them are running, right? You got 3, 4 that are running, but you're really unsure whether there's going to be continuation. So you trade it like you did yesterday, and you go in with size at key levels, and then they fail, and then one fails, and the second fails, and the third fails. So there's got to be some sort of data point that one could look to for, to try to get a better estimate of whether there's going to be continuation on the day. 165 high now on JCSE, so this one is continuing to run, breaching prior bar high, but as you can see, it's a very thick trade nonetheless. We'll see if this one can make its way up into the $0.75 of a dollar. And if it does, if it breaches it, then we're looking at 2. So JCSE up over 60%, clearing the $0.50, and not a bad day. You can always DCA down on uptrend since Finch Chain. I get that. That's probably something, more suited for home trading. But when you're on a prop floor and your risk per trade is kind of, the majority of your focus, it's a little hard to do that. Look at options flow. Okay, great point, because I was just looking with chat. Thank you, Frank Forge. Sharif, look at options flow. Unusual whales give you a view into where it's going. Great point. I like that assessment. However, some of these small cap gappers, sometimes they don't even have options, right? I mean, we tried to look at one last week with your boy Joey Option. It wasn't even optionable. So your point very well taken. It's got to fit that narrative though. And I was just actually looking to see, what kind of data points the different LLMs would tell me, and I kind of ran the same question by 3 or 4 of them, and they all kind of pointed to that. So great point on your part. All right, guys, we're trading at the high here into 62, high day 65. Let's see if we can make it up into the 69 area. There's 64 again. Now we're just a penny off the high, and you can see the selling coming in, but I feel like maybe the shorts are a little bit in trouble on this one. So we'll hold. We'll see what we can get on this, and perhaps even add if it's warranted, but packing the patience here on JCSE, Joey.
Good look. Yeah, Gaurav, I see what you're talking about. It's just, but you can pull the trigger on it. Just get out when you want to. Go a little bit of risk on this trade here. But USO continuing to climb. NASDAQ continuing to slide. I got my eyes on Tesla, to be honest with you. I like that we break through that support level. Now started to form a little bit of a base there. And then now at the top end of this range. All right, so that's kind of what I have my eyes on right now. I did want to go long USO. We go 0 for 1 on that one, so I just don't know. I would have to take a couple more swings at it to see if I'm in sync with the underlying or not. I just get more of a feel with Tesla considering. So if there's any form of a pullback on TSLA or TSLL and get right at the lower end of the range, then we can start to rock and roll a little bit on that one. So, yeah, I mean, it's I don't know what you guys want to call this session. Yeah, I think it's best that I avoid USO. We go 0 for 1, but that's okay. If the market wants to rebound, then I'm all for it. I'm going to look for opportunities there. USO breaks through that resistance zone, but then starts to come right back into that lower end of the range. And then sure enough, if we look at the 5-minute time frame, there might be some more pullback territory. This 128.25 level is holding up pretty good. So a dip below that, retest, some more base being formed, a curl over, then we're going to look to engage on that one. But there goes Tesla, and I'm going to use via TSLA. Nice little consolidation off that low. Even though it's only 5 or 10 minutes, you have to be prepared to get out at the break of this 359.89 level. All right. If not, there could be, if you hold on to that, there could be substantially more downside, and you don't want to be a part of that. Considering, right? Like if we look at that USO trade I just took, and I held on to it, I would just be frustrated with myself because you have that breakup, you don't even get back to your break even, and that can display some forms of weakness, and then now you crack through that support level. So get at it. Dodge, been short Tesla since 365. All right, Jacques, I don't want to go against you, my brother, and provide the liquidity for you on that front. So regardless, I think we'd be patient and sit on our hands. We'll go 2 for 3, and not too bad, giving a little bit back. But when you put on risk, you have to be prepared to do so. AGRO, golf franchise. You golfing yet? Maybe if you live in Arizona, but not in Ontario. I don't think the courses are open just yet. AGRO, let's take a look at it. And then we're going to go over and take a look at Bullfrog momentarily. Oh, okay. This thing's still continuing to climb, $15. I thought this thing went up to like 45 or something at one point. This was the small cap that we were trading the other day. I swear I climbed that. But anyways, aside from that, AGRO, not too bad on today's session. And then what is this? BFRG? Bullfrog, right? Okay, up to $1.22. Never really breached that $1.43 high, and then it's been extremely choppy here today. You have to wait. Sharif would know a lot more about this one than me, but you have to wait for some more buying participants to step in.
It's like a wide-ass spread, Joey.
Is it? What's it at right now?
Right now, 27 pennies. I have 19, 25. It's moving, but
okay.
It's been quite
27
wide,
cents?
Yeah.
No
right now
way.
It's 49, 39, 44. You just got to look at that. Look at that. Isn't that smart?
I told
50?
you the spread. Yeah, wow, that's crazy. Let's pull it up here, actually.
Sure.
And see, BFRG, WNQ.
Got it, Joey.
Oh, here it's showing 2 cents, 1 cent.
Oh, I promise you it's not. It's 36. UGRO? Are you looking at?
Oh, no, Bullfrog.
Bullfrog.
Oh,
I
you're
thought
looking at UGR. Oh, you're looking at, okay, 2 different names.
No, Bullfrog, it's been like 1 penny max the entire time.
It's a cent there. It's a cent there. All right, not too bad. Aside from that, guys, Tesla low of the day. Glad we didn't grab that one. Market is going to continue to slide, man. It's getting ugly, and you know what they typically say.
What do they say?
It'll probably get a lot uglier before things turn around.
No.
Donald Trump, I mean, as for April, the market was extremely exuberant. Everybody was excited. That narrative has completely changed, done a complete 180, Sharif.
Oh, no.
From being all excited to selling absolutely everything, including some of the best names in the market.
And here comes JCSE right back down into our entry in 45. This is the 10 EMA. Let's see if it holds up here. So we're going to add into this position with a stop at 142. Let's see if this holds up. So prior area low, I don't want to say prior bar because we've already obviously breached prior bar, is around 137. So if it pops up, holds a 10 EMA, it'll be a good trade. If it loses that level, I'm out. We were out of the majority of the position anyway. So holding on here, let's put it in at 139. So we kind of take the subjectivity out of it. And if it fails, right? So there it is. We'll put it into, yeah, 139 is where I triggered it. Here it comes right back down into 142. No buying whatsoever. Right into 140. It's going to stop me out for the last remaining amount if it fails this level. But there's some buying at the 10 penny level here. We got 46s with the ad showing 45s, but it felt like it was certainly going to fail 40. Let's put a tester at the $0.50 to see what kind of selling we get at the $0.50. So for a very small amount of size, and this is a tactic that I've been kind of using lately, these like feeler outs to see what kind of liquidity we have at certain areas of support and resistance. Number one, sometimes it gets to be a crowded trade, right? Because you're not the only one looking at it, so it's tough to get. is what I'm trying to say. So continuing to watch here as this trades very much towards the low end of the candle's range, but back into 45. There's a seller now at 45 that we can't shake. We'll see if we can take them out there. And it's a hidden seller because there's really nothing posted on the gateways. Very small size at that level. And by the way, ASTC is now losing VWAP. I want to say at the deepest point, it's been all day. So ASTC could be a short here, especially if it loses 450, but be on the lookout for that. Continuing to watch JCSE, just took out the 45 penny seller. Now there's a seller at 47, putting a tester trade, as I mentioned, at 50 to see what kind of liquidity or lack thereof is at the level. So now there's a seller at 47, so very thickly traded, both to the upside and the downside. It's been hard to shake. There's 50, not crossing 50, so we don't get the fill there, so we'll have to wait. Looking for the move back above 50. There's a 49 seller now coming in. But yeah, that's kind of what I meant by testing the area liquidity there, and it's not filling. So we'll have to keep an eye out on that. Son of Daniel, guys, FMCC up 37%. Any news on mortgages? I typically see mortgage demand in the morning when we do have mortgage news, and I didn't see anything today. Did you see anything with that?
I didn't.
Mortgage. FMCC is the ticker he's asking about. FMCC.
Take a look for sure.
Freddie Mac. I don't have access to that on my platform. I'm sorry, so I can't see any news items on that. So I do apologize there. Birdman, thank you for the $5 super chat. Hey guys, I've recently started trading a new strategy and looking for opinions. EMA 8, 13, 21, 50, 100, 200 price crosses, MTF validation, pros, cons. I'll just tell you how I use moving averages. I use the moving averages of on my wider time frame. I use the 200 exponential, the 50 exponential, the 20 exponential, and the 10 exponential. I don't use the 50 and the 200 intraday. I'll typically only use the 20 and the 10 for intraday trades. However, when I'm looking at something that I'm looking to swing, I'm looking at all four of those major averages, and I also throw in the 200 SMA because oftentimes what I've noticed is some names will find support at the 200 EMA, some will find will support or resistance for that matter at the SMA. So I just like to have both of them on there. That's kind of my take on things though. Joey, do you have any, well actually we'll go to Adair and then we'll get back and Joey give us take.
Yeah.
Here's the Fannie and Freddie situation. Now, I knew there was a post from Bill Ackman. I wanted to take the time to find that exact post, but I think we might have mentioned this earlier this morning, or rather, Sharif and Brendan on the morning show, but this post from Ackman about some of the highest quality businesses in the world trading at extremely cheap prices. His immediate reply to that post was, quote, and Fannie and Freddie are stupidly cheap. Asymmetry at its best. They could be a 10x, and it could happen soon. Now, I looked into this. This is being attributed, as far as I can see, the sole reason that Fannie and Freddie are running. But long story short, Bill Ackman, who has been bullish on Fannie and Freddie for quite some time, issuing another bullish post on these. Back to you.
Yeah, I mean, Birdman, I'll just, as Sharif did, I'll just give it to you straight, brother. I haven't used moving averages in quite some time. There goes BFRG. In my opinion, again, completely subjective, is that it's a lagging indicator, right? But if you really want to know how it works, it's this simple. You can now just type in your strategy into ChatGPT, right? Get it to spit out some Pine script, and then you can plug that in to TradingView in the span. It'll probably take you a half an hour. You have to do a little bit of vibe coding, obviously, and some refining, but you could just plug that into TradingView, that script, and then see how it works. You can back test it, right? It's literally that simple. I personally don't use moving averages. I only have the volume weighted average price on here. I used to back in the day, the 920, the 50, the 100, and the 200. I used to have them all on my charts, but at some point, it was actually just a little bit before I came on the floor. I'm like, I don't really need it at this point. I just use VWAP. I used to be a CAMS trader, for those who are familiar with Camarilla pivot points. Less subjectivity. They're preset in the morning, and they're the same lines all day. You don't really place it like you do with Fibonacci at the lows and anchored VWAP, in my opinion. So those are my favorite two indicators. It's going to be volume weighted average price and the Camarilla pivots. Again, just type your strategy into one of these new LLMs, take that code, put it into a platform, and see how it works from a backtesting standpoint. There goes Bullfrog, 171% on the day now, breaking through that 126 mark, now up to 138, and it's continuing to climb higher. Look at the time in sales here, guys, moving pretty quick, now printing 40s. Wow. Yeah, that's a big-time breakout. That's what you want to see. The buyers step right back in. Now, I'm keeping my eyes here on Tesla as it's starting to form a consolidated base. Maybe we can find a potential long here. Risk profile relatively tight, considering if it breaks through the low of the day, you know you're wrong, and then you just get out of the trade and look for another opportunity. A couple more prints like this, continue the sideways movement without a breach of the support level, then I'm going to find myself a high-quality trade here, I think. But 140 there on BFRG, now up to 175% gains here, printing 41s on the above the ask there, Sharif.
All right, man. I don't have anything new. ASTC is losing bid. I got stopped out for the last remaining amount on JCSE, so we're going to stay clear. We got the news in about 10 minutes or so. BFRG is the one that's breaking out. I'm not going to trade it because I haven't had success on it on the day. This one has bamboozled me several times, so I will stay clear of that. If you guys want me to look at anything for you, though, we've got about 10 minutes, I want to say, or so before we start the new segment. Tag me with any names you want me to look at, but I'm not going to be trading anymore as we go. And there goes BFRG. Halt limit up is 149, so be on the lookout for that. Good move up on that name, 149 limit up. So that's it. That's all I've got at the moment. GVO finding some support at 282. We can go through the different sectors. Let's see what's been strong on the day, what's been weak on the day. Definitely getting some outlying prints to the downside in semiconductor, microchip world, as basically all those names are negative, save and except for Qualcomm, which is up, you know, a light 0.2%, getting shellacked on the day and have been getting really hit hard. Have been the memory names. You got Micron down 7.5, SanDisk 5.75, Western Digital 7.75 as well. LITE, that photonics name, touched 800 not long ago, down today, almost $50, 47 bucks on the day. So that one is losing the bid quite quickly. Taiwan Semi down now, I believe almost 3%, $1.4 trillion market cap there. But you know, this one's coming off lofty levels. APLD as well getting shellacked. Applied Digital down 11 1/3 on the day. There's blood on all these names, my goodness. And then Bloom Energy, a name I'm involved in, also getting shellacked. 10 2/3, not to mention MP Materials, which is also my portfolio, getting hit hard. Green is crypto, but barely. Outperforming Bitcoin is Ethereum, up 3.5. Bitcoin's up 1.5, so a bit of divergence there. All the military names as well. Funny, you know, as the belligerencies kind of extend, the military names are certainly not getting a move up. Which one did I just put there? You figured that they would be, you know, beneficiaries of some of the issues in the Middle East. No, not really. AMC and GME are breaking out. I'm assuming AMC is in sympathy with GME. Or VFS as well. Sorry, GME's only up 1.5. AMC's up 11 3/4, back above the dollar. VinFast as well. I don't know why this is up. Also, almost 11% on the day. Cybersecurity names, PANW up 7%, CrowdStrike up 4.5%. That's been an interesting development there with some insider buying on PANW. We'll get to that in a minute. CrowdStrike had an upgrade today from a major agency. Okta up nicely on the day, bucking the trend, 4 3/4. What else we got in that world? But as Joey was pointing out, man, Hood's been getting shellacked lately. That's down another 1/3%. Same thing with Upstart. Who else is negative on the day outlying here? Yeah, not much in the way of outlying names down here. No, these are all small names, nothing to write home about. Obviously, solar's getting hit big, as it typically does. So it's a bit of a red day, but what I was looking at there were the major averages, and the major averages are all in agreement. Like, for example, the Dow, the DIA is up 2/3, the Qs are flat, the SPY's up 1/4, but the Russell 2000 IWM is down 0.7, so no cohesiveness, at least for the moment, in the market between some of these major averages. So a bit of a tougher look, bit of a ziggy-zaggy type day, Joey.
Yeah, absolutely, man. A little pop up there in TSLL. You get that move into 149 on BFRG. Starts to pull back about 15 cents or so from that level. Now getting a little bit of a sustained bounce. Now we break out through this resistance zone on TSLL. We had our opportunity to get involved in this one at the lows. Gave us a couple pennies there as the market's slowly starting to rebound. So we have to be patient on this one. Maybe we get a continued short on Bitcoin. This thing's hanging at the shelf. It can get absolutely disastrous on Bitcoin here momentarily, especially if this level continues to hold up. Look at this. I don't like that whatsoever. That's dangerous and a potential move a little bit lower. This thing has been getting beat up as well, too. We're down 50% off of the highs here on IBIT and Bitcoin, respectively. We'll head over to the daily and see what we got. At top end of the range, it's short city right there. Oh, man. $71 all the way down to $38, 40+%, 45% right there on IBIT. Yeah, I don't know, man. Again, things can happen really quick, but what we've noticed since obviously since IBIT came out is that you go through these lengthy consolidations, almost a year at that point, and just make a move, and then you consolidate and don't do much for quite some time. So you have to be extremely patient with this stuff. 46.54, all right? 46% to the downside. Extremely difficult. Let's get involved in some shorts here on IBIT just because we're long. We'll take that off there, off a little uptick, and then we'll flip right back up. Jeez. We'll give a little bit back there, but nothing substantial as that support level may potentially break down here. We're gonna go full size on that one as it's starting to flush, guys. That's exactly what we want to see here. IBIT, let's pull that back up, a nice little move, and hopefully we get that continuation. Oops. IBIT, we're in on that one. Breakdown. We were short all the way over here, so may as well go with the flow. That shelf being formed, cracks of that support level, we might get a move into $38. So that'll give us a little bit of a nice potential trade right there on Bitcoin. Ethereum, as Sharif mentioned, performing a little bit better than Bitcoin here today, but it's not a good look in the overall market. A whole lot of red. Microsoft, how's that move doing? Ooh, inverted hammer candle right at the highs. So be cautious of this one as you break through some of these support levels right now. But inverted print breaks out, no sustained move. Market overall weak, not too good of a look. There goes Bitcoin. Let's go. A nice little move to the downside there, Sharif.
All right, good stuff, man. We just got into JCSE, a bunch of bottoming tail candles. So this one looks like it might be on the way to break out above the $0.5, but be careful because it's been quite bamboozling. So we're in at 45. Let's see if it can take out 50. High day 65. 3 bottoming tail candles in a row, followed by this current candle at 12.55, which has breached prior bar high, not by much. And it also has that $0.5 resistance that kind of keeps showing up. So that's kind of the way that is there. What you're trading, Captain, I can't find anything. JCSE, brother. Shout out to my man, Mike PD Ryder. Look, JCSE is by no means a clean trade. As you can see, you know, obviously all the zigs and the zags, 165 high, but I'll submit to you, it's not that 165 we need to worry about. We need to worry about that 150 first and foremost. If we get that clearance, we could make another attempt into the high of the day. So we'll let that one go. Stops in place. No profit takers. We're going to see if this one can breach area high. But we're going to start the news. So let's get right down to work, baby. As we're about 5 to 1. I'm just going to put this over here so it doesn't overlap with my JCSA trade. So a little bit of a light bunch today, guys. Not much in the way of the news headlines. NVIDIA is the first topic, and quite frankly, there's really no fundamental headline on NVIDIA other than to tell you it's over 20% off the highs, pulling back sharply, kind of reflecting that risk-off positioning rather than the fundamental breakdown. I still think this is a great company, and I think their maneuvers lately to get into ASICs has kind of, you know, re-established their moat in the space, because we've seen the move away from their just basic GPUs, which is really, you know, number one for training, and into inference, right, where agentic AI is now flourishing, and that really deals with ASICs. So forward valuation dropped at around 19.6 PE. If you compare that to the S&P's 500 forward PE, which is around 20, it shows, you know, that it may be on a discount right now. We'll have to wait and see. The market's pricing in slower growth or higher uncertainty. In any event, the broader AI trade is being questioned as investors reassess ROI and the massive AI infrastructure spending. Concerns around, some of the hyperscalers like Microsoft, Amazon, Alphabet, which may take longer than originally anticipated to monetize. I would say Meta probably is the worst of the bunch when it comes to that because they've spent a lot and they don't have the same kind of moat to be able to monetize. We've talked about how Meta doesn't have cloud and the other three do, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to go through that again. NVIDIA does continue, though, to give very strong earnings, about 75% growth from the last earnings report. Lost over $800 billion in market value recently, with the key issue being the great results are no longer enough if the expectations are even greater. Some strategists, though, argue NVIDIA now looks like a bargain given its growth and its valuation reset, Joey. You punch in on NVIDIA here?
No, not yet. I mean, I do like the PE, Sharif, as you mentioned. The street extremely worried about the CapEx tsunami, obviously, you were talking about not too long ago. I'm not punching in. I do like the PE, considering I went over the example not too long ago in regards to Google. I think just the market needs a little bit of time to digest. How long is this bear market going to be? I don't know. Be patient. It's probably going to be correlated with the conflict in Iran. I'm going to be extremely, extremely cautious, but if you're willing to DCA, just be prepared for some more downside here. You got 20% now on NVDA, 30% on Microsoft, and some other names as well too. Meta as well, down 30%. I think these names are fundamentally, they're fine. The street will get over the CapEx. Once you start to see an ROI on some of this, obviously the AI spend, then sure enough, things will slowly start to turn around. But the street doesn't like what's going on overseas.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little Meta. Got a price target cut, but the bull case maintained. Morgan Stanley lowering the price target on Meta to $775 from $825. However, they kept the overweight rating. Despite the cut, they kept them as one of their top picks, signaling, that they have a continued conviction in Meta's long-term story. The sentiment, though, has softened. Multiple reasons. Concerns around Gen AI and the spending, as well as positioning for Meta within that space. Also, the two huge, let's just be honest about it, court cases that came against Meta or came out against Meta last week, could create a longer-term headwind when it comes to these, contingent liabilities. Investors are also increasingly questioning the near-term returns on heavy AI investment. We have to single out Meta here, even though they're up 2 1/5 on the day. Feels like a bit of a relief rally. And the reason is, as I just mentioned earlier with the NVIDIA story, is that they don't have a cloud division, and by extension of that, a neo-cloud division that they can start monetizing and start renting out these GPUs and all the AI spend. So they have to generate that ROI vis-a-vis ads, where 97% of their revenue comes in. And that, might be a bit of a tall task. Not impossible, of course. We'll have to wait and see what Zuck has to say on the call. Analysts still expect Meta to grow faster over the long term and supported specifically by AI initiatives, says the Morgan Stanley analyst. Potential catalysts also include agentic AI development and improved monetization tools. When it comes to the agentic, they did pick up Manus, that Chinese company, but that is, obviously that they've got the company now, but the actual founders may be of little assistance as they are basically in the country of China, locked in, can't leave. More on that, I guess, later when we have time. But anyway, Morgan Stanley views the current levels as a strong buying opportunity for Meta, given the future growth potential. Joey, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm going to sit in the same boat, to be honest with you. But there's a couple of things just weighing this stock down. Obviously, the CapEx spend and then the continuous lawsuits. Once they slowly start to clear up, I think Meta can continue to climb a little bit higher. I don't see anyone or anything in the pipeline dethroning Instagram. It's a social media giant, and I'm going to stick with that. Digital ad revenue amounting up to 97% of it. So it's still going to be an absolute beast, in my opinion. Let the fundamentals speak for themselves, and the technicals continuously sell them off. And I think that's going to be the narrative until these court cases slowly start to cool down and they stop spending so much money, $135 billion, I believe it is, for 2026, 2027. So not too good of a look from that front until you start seeing money start to step back in. We'll go to Adair in 1 second. It's just the fact, he's laying people off. He's cutting in the right places.
Yeah.
Reality Labs has been absolutely disastrous. Decrease the funding, cut the jobs. Eventually you'll start to see margins increase. And I think the street will like that at some point, but it may take a lot longer than what we're anticipating. Adair.
Couple headlines out of the Middle East over the last few minutes. So a couple minutes ago, we're hearing a U.S. official announcing that more reinforcements for the 82nd Division will be sent to the Middle East this week. That'll raise the total of troops there to roughly 3,000. Furthermore, saying that parts of the 82nd Airborne Division did reach the Middle East last week. Now, a couple minutes before that, so just about 8 minutes ago now, Israel Hayom reporting that in a closed-door conversation, leader of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, said that any closed-door discussions that are potentially happening with the U.S. and Iran will not be stopping the fighting with Hezbollah. So tensions look like they are continuing here in the Middle East. Back to you.
Let's talk about oil surging, of course, again, up 3.5% today as USO. As we had more issues in the Middle East, Yemen's Iran-backed Houthis launched missiles at Israel, expanding the broader regional conflict. The conflict between the U.S., Israel, and Iran has now entered its 5th week, with Brent crude, that is, surging over 55% in the month of March, putting it on pace for a record monthly move if we close more aggressively tomorrow. This Bab el-Mandeb Strait now is emerging as a major risk, with about 4 to 5 million barrels of oil flowing through it on a daily basis. That is in addition to the concerns that already center around the Strait of Hormuz, which is a critical artery. President Trump suggesting that the U.S. would take or could take Iran's oil, referencing, this kind of Venezuela-style intervention. The move is targeting also Iran's Kharag Island export hub, which handles about 90% of Iranian oil exports. That would be a major supply shock, both for and against here, especially if they get it. Societe Generale coming out with their case, their bull case on oil, saying it could hit $150 if the disruptions continue to persist into April, and a continued conflict could remove millions of barrels per day from the global supply, which is going to tighten it even more. Current rally, though, Joey, is being driven by the fear of a sustained disruption rather than immediate shortages. We have to kind of put that a little bit in perspective. The Philippines now has, I think, run out of oil. If my understanding was right, that they're basically short. So Asia, a lot more exposed than North America, because the Strait of Hormuz supplies them a lot. We get oil in North America, Venezuela, the United States, Canada. So when it comes to the actual oil itself, we've got it. It's just the price is high because it's a world market, right?
Yeah, extremely high. I think that's going to be the narrative for quite some time. Apparently, I've seen someone in the chat, I don't know how much weight we'll put onto it, but at the end of the day, hearing Australia getting low as well.
Yeah, that whole area.
Yeah, that whole, again, the Eastern Hemisphere. Right? Yeah, exactly. There goes IBIT. There's a good opportunity to re-engage right here. We took a little bit of a scalp, but then now we're continuing to slide, and USO moving to the top side. And as long as this war continues, you're going to see an increase of in oil prices as the supplies start to dwindle, especially on the eastern side of the world. You're going to see those gas prices go through the absolute roof. I wouldn't even want to know what the price is over there right now, considering Sharif. It's pretty bad over here. Hopefully things start to cool down, that they can come to some form of agreement, but I don't think that's going to happen as quick as we anticipated to.
No, it doesn't feel like it. Let's talk a little ETH outperforming Bitcoin today. So Bitcoin up 1.38, ETH up 3.32. Not a bad look. And they rallied, ETH that is, rallied last week about 9%. Stalling, though, near 2,200. It's below 2,200 now, 2,060. Strong technical resistance continues to hang out at around 2,200. Price is currently range-bound between the 50 EMA and the 50 SMA. So the 50 EMA is apparently at 2,200, and the SMA is at 2,000. So $200 range there. This range defines the near-term battleground, with bulls needing a breakout above 2,200, of course, to shift the momentum back in their favor. A confirmed move, though, above 2,200 could signal a breakout from a symmetrical triangle pattern, according to the article I reviewed this morning. The move, the measured move, pardon me, from that structure targets about $3,080. That's a 40% upside from the price at the time of the writing of this article. Historically, though, similar setups, we're specifically talking about May of 2025, triggered rapid upside expansions with about 50% move in under a week. I don't know if we get that kind of same volatility this time, but something to note nonetheless. Significant resistance here sits between 27.80 and 28.80, so about $100 range. Multiple long-term EMAs are converging at that level. And then also the on-chain data shows there's a heavy accumulation between that 27.80 and the 28.80 zone, with about 7.5 million ETH previously bought, creating a supply overload at that level. There's also strong support, so if you're looking less for resistance and more for support, strong support sits between 1850 and 2000, and that's backed, Joey, by a prior accumulation of about 1.3 million ETH between that $150 level. Losing, though, 2000 could, especially 1850, could break a key structure and likely trigger what they're saying could be an accelerated downside move down to 1400, which would be the next area of support. And last but not least, we always talk about ETF flows. Last week saw about $27.5 million in weekly outflows, which isn't that bad for ETH, especially because it did rally a decent amount last week.
Yeah, I mean, on some occasions it has been performing a little bit better than Bitcoin, but I think the price of things need to be taken into consideration. We know that there is a use case to Ethereum as for the staking aspect, building stable coins and other things within that blockchain. But I think that with the crypto space, unless Bitcoin, there's enough confidence under Bitcoin's belt, I don't think that the Ethereums, the Solanas, and those other names are going to have any form of sustained rally. You need Bitcoin, the grandfather of the cryptocurrency, to really lead the way. It has in other times. Ethereum's been equally as volatile as a Bitcoin, a high of $5,000 now trading to a low of around $2,000. So that's a hefty haircut right there. So that's where I stand. Until Bitcoin continues its climb higher, I think it's tough for the crypto space.
All right, AMD got a bullish reaffirmation on their AI growth outlook. So, how do you say this? Athlia Capital reiterated a buy rating on AMD, and they assigned a $330 price target. The current valuation, according to them, is seen as undervalued relative to what they're calling their fair value, which is around $225. They're currently trading at $197 and change. The price target is based on what they're calling a sum of the parts valuation, reflecting multiple growth segments. They're also increasingly positioning themselves as a full stack AI compute provider, not just a secondary GPU supplier, second to NVIDIA, of course. Analysts are also highlighting the agentic AI workloads where CPUs are a lot more important than they were in the AI training phase. Enter AMD, enter Intel, key CPU suppliers. BFRG just took out high a day into 155. Be on the lookout there. This shift, though, expands AMD's role not just as a GPU challenger to NVIDIA, but also an AI infrastructure player in the next-gen AI phase vis-a-vis their CPUs. We're going to have to see if, they do catch an aggressive tailwind as a result of that. With server CPU revenue expected to grow at 45% CAGR, compounding annual growth rate from 2025 to 2028. The data center revenue also projected to surge substantially. $17 billion in 25. It's expected to be $58 billion in 27, and then $77 billion. This is all for AMD in 2028, with the growth driven by market share gain as well as dual AI engines. You have the CPUs; they have a lot of experience making for decades, and now the GPUs. Obviously, they are not the incumbent there. That is NVIDIA. They also like the partnership with Celestica to develop that Helios AI rack infrastructure, and they signed a multi-year licensing deal with Adair, resolving some litigation that they had with IP. Lisa Su, the OG, appointed also to the U.S. President's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology. That can't hurt things, but key risks include, Joey, AI demand variability, execution challenges, specifically, of course, around GPUs, and geopolitical factors, which may act as a local headwind.
I mean, there's a lot of positive going on for AMD right now. Lisa Su doing the right thing, a couple mega deals, scale AI involvement, and a lot going on just within the build out. I really like what AMD has. this is what we wanted to see from this company for quite some time, considering we thought it was going to be NVDA #1 and AMD #2. They've climbed drastically in this race, competing with Broadcom, in my opinion. It was NVDA and Broadcom for quite some time. But what we've seen from Lisa Su striking multiple deals, I think that we can see some substantial upside, as a lot of analysts are positive on this name, with estimates of 54% higher and even a little bit higher with some of the other analysts. So I like what they got going on here in AMD.
Wolf Research upgrading CrowdStrike to outperform from peer perform, setting a $450 price target, which assumes a 22% upside from Friday's close. They view the pullback as a buying opportunity rather than a structural issue. Despite the bullish call, of course, the stock is flagged as most overvalued relative to fair value estimates. Make of that what you will. They've declined about 21% year to date. We're talking about Crowd, with the stock recently dropping 6% and change on the Anthropic model news, and a 10% decline just last week alone. Over 3 months, Crowd is down about 23%, but to be fair, it is holding up better than the broader growth and software comps, where we saw software Armageddon. And some of the reasons that they like this, they say there's a lot of fundamental strength in Crowd, with 74.8% gross margins, which is, I think, normal for a service. 21.7% revenue growth, not bad. Wolf also sees accelerating growth and expanding margins, so it just wasn't, there was more than one rating agency chiming in on Crowd today. Anthropic, though, and especially their upcoming model release, they've introduced what they're calling competitive uncertainty, especially in the AI-driven cybersecurity tools. But at the same time, Crowd's expanding its partnership with Intel and enhancing AI-powered endpoint security. However, industry demand is rising, according to Wolf, because of AI-driven threats. What I don't think they're addressing there is how AI, yes, it is creating more threats on one side, but it's also becoming the solution on the other side.
Yeah.
Does that necessarily exclude Crowd? Because obviously they can adopt some of these agentic,
exactly.
But at the same time, do you need Crowd to do that for you? Are you able to bring it in-house? Vis-a-vis the enterprise deal with Anthropic or whoever you end up doing business with. You know what I mean? Like,
I understand what you're saying, but I don't know if it's that easy, right? Like, maybe the bigger it gets, the more difficult it is to secure.
Sure.
Right? Palo Alto, CrowdStrike taking market share from them. I like this. Between Palo Alto and CrowdStrike, I think those are your two top cybersecurity names, and I think that's going to remain that way. I don't think you can replace the whole software essentially with just your own programming, unless you're spending more big bucks essentially to get people to program it for you. And then what is that going to cost you at the end of the day? So you have to figure that out as well.
All right, Palo Alto props up after the CEO buys about $10 million of stock. So just to give you an idea, Nikesh Arora, he purchased 68,085 shares on March 27th, totaling approximately $10 million. That increased his direct ownership in the company by 25%. It's a conviction signal. So like unlike many executive stock grants, this was an open market purchase. It wasn't an option that he had vis-a-vis his stock-based compensation. This is a higher conviction signal, according to analysts, because the CEO is using his own personal cash to buy shares at market price rather than receiving them, as I mentioned, in stock-based comp. The purchase occurred as the stock traded near $147, which is very close to its 52-week low. It had pulled back about 30% from its highs. I think it was around 220 or whatever, suggesting the CEO believes that the market has oversold the company. It is a bit of a contrarian move, though. Let's be honest. This buy stands out because it breaks the long trend of insider selling at the company, and that's what we've seen lately. Over the past 6 months, other executives, like the chief product officer, they've sold about $90 million in stock, making Aurora's buy a lone bullish outlier. So you can make of that what you will, but there was market impact as well. Analysts at Barclays specifically noted that this was the largest open market CEO buy in their cybersecurity coverage of all the names that they cover. It's seen as a strategic defense against fears that AI startups like Anthropic, we were just talking about, might disrupt the traditional cybersecurity market. Joey, what do you think about that?
I mean, we were just talking about some of the cybersecurity names and how software as a service can be in a little bit of trouble, but I just don't think it's the first thing you toss out of the door. CEO buying stock. That's always a positive note as well too. I think it's just a wait and see game essentially. These cybersecurity names, I think they're just too important to just throw and disregard, regardless if you can make your own, right? It's unfortunate because I think this negative sentiment is just going with the overall market as well too. So Palo Alto, CrowdStrike, Zscaler, who's been absolutely getting destroyed, I think they'll find somewhat of a rebound. Zscaler will be a little bit more difficult, but the two predominant ones, that being CrowdStrike and PANW, it's easier for them to find somewhat of a recovery.
Fair enough. Those are the two big names. Adair, what's your take?
I have a couple different things I want to say on this. For one, I think if you're just going to directly compare like Palo Alto to CrowdStrike here, I think Palo Alto with the insider buy, much stronger catalyst than any kind of reason Wolf Research could have had to upgrade CrowdStrike, though, as mentioned, not necessarily the only analyst speaking on CrowdStrike today. That being said, I think like if you're just going to compare the two cybersecurity catalysts head to head, I think Palo Alto is a better look. But here's the thing. I think the CEO insider buying, especially depending on the timing of it, is not necessarily as good of a signal as it always seems to be, because sometimes it happens when there are times of panic for the company. Now we know there's been a lot of concern about cybersecurity as of late, so good timing there for Nikesh Arora. But let's talk about SoFi. Because we know SoFi here, I believe it was March 17th, we had this push to the downside. It closed relatively flat, just slightly red here on March the 17th after that short report from Muddy Waters. Now what happened also that evening was we got an insider buy from Anthony Noto, CEO of SoFi. Same with another recent purchase here from Trade Desk CEO. Let's take a look at what Trade Desk does. The point I'm trying to make here, guys, is like we get these insider CEO purchases, and I think the implication is supposed to be, oh, well, if the CEO isn't worried about the company, then we shouldn't be. But here's the thing. Of course, the CEO doesn't want to be worried about the company. They're in charge, right? So it looks bad for them if it goes lower. I think to some extent, a lot of these are just trying, I mean, you know, maybe they do believe in the company and that's all fine and well, but I think it is kind of, I don't think this should be taken like at its face as much as it is. The CEO buys, and I think as of late, the stocks don't really seem to be falling for, or rather they don't seem to be buying the CEO purchases as a catalyst.
Let's talk about Cisco acquiring Jetro to expand higher growth channels. So they announced an agreement to acquire Jetro Restaurant Depot at a value of $21.9 billion. It includes about $21.6 billion in cash and about $91.5 million in Cisco shares, making it a sizable strategic acquisition. It does imply, though, about 14.6% or times, operating income, with about 13 times with synergies. That's confidence in the integration upside, which is often a problem when companies do merge. Jetro is a cash and carry wholesale model competing with Cisco's delivery-focused business. The acquisition will allow Cisco to enter what they're calling a high-margin, fast-growing cash and carry segment. The channel's estimated at about $60 to $70 billion in expanding addressable market, primarily serving, smaller restaurants, food service operators, and the like. There is a good operational footprint, though, for Jetro because they operate 165 large-format warehouse stores across 35 states. That's about 725,000 independent customers. The model emphasizes low cost in-store purchasing with immediate access to inventory, kind of differentiating themselves from the delivery-heavy peers. The financial portfolio for Jetro, they generate approximately $16 billion in annual revenue. They have about a little bit less than $2 billion in free cash flow, and they've maintained a 30-year track record of EBITDA growth, and that obviously highlights the operational consistency here. Strong cash generation aligns well with Cisco's existing margin profile, Joey, as it tries to scale advantages. SYS, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, it's SYY, right? Yeah. I mean, this isn't a name that we typically always talk about. We go through the deal. Sharif went through some of those numbers as well. These guys are honestly outlook to 3 to 5% adjusted EPS to be high around $4 and $4.60. That's not bad whatsoever. Growth over 3% year over year, not too bad. 180 bips in Q2 performance, demonstrating strong momentum in the business. So there is growth across the board. Sharif was talking about the EBITDA there as well. So not too bad. We could take a look at some of the technicals, SYY, and see what we got going on. This isn't a good look whatsoever. This is down substantially, and this is what typically happens to the individual acquiring the company. the entity acquiring the company. You see a strong down move. They're going to have to raise debt as well, too, which the street's not going to like. You go from $92 down to $69. Overall market sentiment not helping. But when you have to raise debt, then the street doesn't typically like that via offerings. Adair, what do you have?
I'm seeing a couple different headlines out of the Middle East as oil tries to push back here into intraday highs. We are seeing the Israeli Broadcast Authority quoting a security official saying that the army has been providing Washington and the U.S. over here with information regarding a possible ground operation in the Strait of Hormuz. So it does look like there could be a potential ground operation here in the Strait of Hormuz. Furthermore, looks like there's some comments as well coming through from U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio saying the U.S. is dissatisfied with NATO in terms of how it's handled the Iran conflict, and furthermore saying that the conflict in Iran will conclude when, quote, the U.S. accomplishes its goals. We are also expected to be getting some comments here from White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. I have a couple streams open waiting to hear when she speaks. She's supposed to start at 1 p.m. She often starts closer to 1:30, so this isn't out of the norm at all. Once she begins and appears on that podium, I'll keep you all posted.
Yeah, Bitcoin towards the low of the day, guys. I mean, putting in a new one. We were short right here, came back, stopped out. I knew I should have punched in right there. Once again, at that 38.15 level price, better risk to reward. Now you're down to 37.91. Still slightly positive, but that gap up, had that hunch this morning, and I'm like, hey, we're going to fill this gap to the downside. And sure enough, look at the momentum really start to accelerate here in Bitcoin and the overall market. You have to be cautious. USO right towards the high of the day, and then we have Tesla as well, two guys starting to form that base. Be cautious. I don't know if it's a catch the falling knife type day. You want to go with the flow, as I typically say, and that's to the downside here, guys.
Nike set to report earnings after the close. Tomorrow, Wall Street is expecting $11.2 billion in revenue with EPS at about 28 pennies. That is down about half from what they printed last year. They brought about 54 pennies per share EPS this time last year. The setup reflects obviously margin pressure as well as slower growth with expectations already kind of reset lower. The focus will also be on inventory discipline and the margin outlook, especially amid cost pressures. China will also be in focus. It was part of the review this morning for the morning note, but I had to remove it because there wasn't enough room. But China will be one of the big markets at the market or that that investors are going to be looking at here to see whether Nike is recovering. They emphasize as well product innovation and fast decision making to kind of reaccelerate some of the growth that they've lost over the last few years. Management's ability to show progress on operational efficiency will be key to rebuilding confidence. The World Cup, though, possibly a catalyst here, hosted in the U.S., highlighted a potential demand catalyst. I don't know exactly what their involvement is with the World Cup, official sponsor, possibly kits made by them. You guys will have to look that up. Tag me if you know. Product cycles and innovation pipeline could also provide incremental upside if the execution improves. However, near-term catalysts remain uncertain without clear demand stabilization. The sentiment, though, especially with analysts, Oppenheimer sees no all clear yet, but they believe in the long-term positioning and say that it is improving. Current valuation is viewed as discounting near-term risks, offering possible recovery to the upside. BTIG also chiming in, notes incremental progress, especially in North America, with faster internal execution. But analysts are split, man. I mean, balanced bulls, bears ratings. They highlight uncertainty around turnaround timeline. What is your take on Nike?
I like that you mentioned inventories is going to be a massive factor in this name. How long are how long is the clothing staying on the shelves? China amounting to 15% of its global revenue or overseas revenue. It's tough look, man. And I mentioned this time and time again, there's just so much competition in the athleisure wear. You have so many companies here. You have the Gymsharks, you have the Allos, you have the On, and so much more. It's a tough space, and when you're trying to go for this luxury brand where at some point you were getting for a discount, you can go to the outlets and everything else along those lines. I just think Nike's in a tough space right now, and I think it's a tough buy, especially in the retail space as the consumer continues to cool down. I don't know if you're going to be spending a couple $100s on some sweatpants and a sweater. You're going to look for those cheaper alternatives, and I don't know if that's going to be Nike. Also, the brick and mortar costing them a lot of money as well.
All right, Adair, what's your take?
Caroline Leavitt just began talking, so keep an eye here in these comments. I'll let you guys know if there's anything of note being said. She already just started mentioning Iran. But in terms of Nike and the World Cup, this could be what it is. This is from Nike's official website. Nike's football section unveiling the 2026 Federation kits. So they've got a whole bunch of official kits that you can shop on Nike's website for all the different national teams for this year. So that could be, I guess, kind of the implication there. If people buy these kits, good look for Nike, of course. But yeah, in terms of Nike's like actual performance for this quarter, I think China certainly of note. This chart kind of takes the revenue going back to Q2 2020 all the way to the most recent quarter, Q2 2026. This has clearly been struggling. We are in a downtrend from these highs. That is for sure, to get kind of technical with it. So let's see what happens with that China revenue. I think in general, though, NKE, Elliott Hill, I know a lot of people were really excited about him to come in as CEO. I've seen very little evidence to back up that excitement as of late. And I know Elliott Hill as CEO is like a really, really big opinion that a lot of people have. So please, educate me in the chat if you have other opinions on this. That's fine. I don't think he's done much so far that we can really see in the performance reflected. And he's been there now like a year and a half. So let's kind of wait and see what kind of changes we get from Elliott Hill. Now, I know it's not really fair to compare him to Kelly Ortberg of Boeing or Brian Niccol of Starbucks, but all three CEOs of these major legacy companies that were in a bad place, they all started around the same time. So I think the comparison is fair to make. Boeing, we've certainly seen a turnaround in terms of reputation and to a certain extent, though not as of late, the stock price. Starbucks, I think we certainly have seen at least attempts to make a turnaround and some changes being made. So I'll give Niccol and Ortberg at least partial passes. Ortberg will give a full pass because he's actually done quite a good job. Elliott Hill, there's a lot left to be desired here, and I'd like to see him kind of prove me wrong, and I think maybe hopefully also prove these bearish people and these investors wrong with this quarter.
Uber expanding robotaxi bet with WeRide. They disclosed they're holding 56.6 million shares for WeRide, which is WRD. That's about a 5.82% passive stake, positional signals. Uber's growing commitment to autonomous vehicle technology. We've talked a lot about that. Uber trying to make themselves the AV marketplace rather than the AV source. Investment aligns with their strategy to partner rather than build AV tech internally. In September of 24, Uber and WeRide launched that commercial robotaxi partnership in the Emirates, in Dubai. The deal integrates WeRide's autonomous vehicles into Uber's platform, which obviously expands their ride-hailing offerings. It's framed as a deployment-first strategy, and it's focusing on scaling AV rather than actually having ownership of the AV IP. They committed as well an additional $100 million in May of 25 to expand that partnership. The plan includes scaling robotaxi operations to 15 additional cities over the next 5 years, and the investment is expected to close in the second half of 25, pending transaction conditions. We'll have to obviously wait on that. WeRide was up. I don't know where it is right now, but it was up 6.1% at the time of the writing of this article. Let's see where it's at right now. They are flat. They're up 0.43, so basically selling off the entire thing. Wall Street analysts maintain a strong buy consensus, and some platforms remain more cautious, though. The move does highlight investor optimism around AV adoption as well as platform integration. And Joey, we've talked about this many times. Uber is positioning themselves as a network aggregator for these AV fleets rather than a direct competitor. Do you like that strategy?
I think so. We talked about it from an insurance and a liability standpoint. I think it's really important, right? We know that their biggest cost is going to be the driver. Can they slowly start to eliminate that? Is there going to be other liabilities that come along the line when you eliminate that driver? I think so, but I don't know if it's going to be as cost effective or cost as much essentially as hiring those employees. You have the Pony AI deal as well, looking to expand in Europe. You have the food delivery service. I really like what Uber's doing right now, especially considering they don't really own any vehicles. It's like, hey, you have the technology, no problem. We'll sign up with you. You can use our app. You put in the software. You use your vehicles, and we get a little bit of the cut. I think that's a smart play by Uber.
Cool. Sorry.
No worries.
All right, Palantir expanding their Stellantis partnership in an AI push. They announced a renewal and expansion of the STLA partnership with a new 5-year agreement that extends a collaboration that began back in 2016. The focus remains on industrializing data and scaling AI use cases across all of Stellantis' operations. This is really good for Palantir, yet another commercial contract. They're going to expand, Stellantis will expand usage of the AIP platform across multiple business functions. The platform enables, as we've talked about many times, integration of AI into the existing workflows of the company in a controlled, kind of governed environment. AIP also provides tools to operationalize data and embed AI directly into real-time decision-making processes. The operational impact, though, it aims to improve data management, aims to improve operational efficiency, as well as decision automation. Stellantis is going to use Palantir to consolidate previously fragmented data sets and improve visibility across their business. That's what AIP does for you. Expansion is also suggesting that they're increasingly relying on AI-driven optimization in the manufacturing as well as the logistic workflows, which makes sense, of course, if you're looking to shore up costs and kind of move into the next century, so to speak. Stellantis has been struggling. But it does, at least for Palantir, reinforce their position as a key enterprise AI infrastructure provider. What do you think about that, Joey?
What I like about this is that we're continuously seeing Palantir step outside of the government contracts. They're growing globally, and that's what you want to see from these companies. Even though the government contracts are fantastic, you want to see them step outside and come into the public market, private, whatever it may be, to continue that growth cycle that it's been on. And that's what I really like what Alex Karp and company are doing. You know, from a military standpoint, they're going to continue to do what they do, but stepping outside of that and gaining more contracts outside of the government, I think is a big-time positive for Palantir.
NOC advances their Sentinel nuclear program with new silo prototypes. So alongside the U.S. Air Force, Northrop Grumman began testing a prototype launch silo for their Sentinel Intercontinental Ballistic Missiles program, ICBM. Marks an early but critical step in modernizing U.S. land-based nuclear infrastructure. The project, though, is part of a broader effort to replace the aging Minuteman III systems. Man, those are things, aren't they from like the 60s or 70s, these Minuteman ones? Maybe they're from the 80s, who knows? Prototype focuses on a modular next-gen launch facility designed for scalability. It also aims to reduce the long-term maintenance costs and improve deployment efficiencies. Have you ever been into one of these, have you ever seen videos, not been, like in the Midwest, they have a bunch of these, like in the middle of nowhere, missile silos that are empty now.
Oh yeah, and people people build their bunkers in them and stuff.
Man.
Yeah.
That looks like a time, man. But I don't know about the radiation in those back.
I don't know, but right? Dude, remember the show I was telling you about, Doomsday Preppers? With this one old rich guy just bought one.
Did he?
Yeah, and then he just decided to make it. But it's like filled with water. It's like filled with water. You gotta get that out of there.
Anyway, the 60s missile, says Finch Jane. The system is being engineered to support rapid expansion as additional silos are built nationwide. The testing and the timeline phase. So prototype testing will help validate both the construction methodology and the large-scale deployment feasibility for these new kind of silos. The Sentinel program expected to replace, give or take, the 450 existing missile silos that are in the United States under this program. Full deployment timeline, though, remains very much long-term, so don't expect any near-term, maybe visibility in the price. The system is intended to remain operational for decades, as I guess the Minutemen were as well. Multiple decades, you could say even half a century. But it is very strategically important here. The project is a cornerstone of the U.S. nuclear triad modernization effort. The triad, of course, the B-52, so in the air. Then you have underwater with the nuclear submarines, and then you have land-based systems. So that's kind of the triad where it's kind of impossible to destroy all three. No one knows where these nuclear submarines are hiding. And then the B-52s could be anywhere. But obviously the land-based ones are a little bit easier to detect. This reinforces, though, Northrop Grumman's position as a key defense contractor in long-cycle government programs. Obviously, some of the airplanes as well, long-term. Provides long-term revenue visibility as well, tied to defense spending priorities. But nuclear modernization efforts are gaining traction amid rising geopolitical tensions and defense spending. Do you think this is kind of a nothing burger, more long-term than anything else?
I would say a little bit more long-term, to be honest with you. I thought this name would be...
the B-52.
I think, the B-52?
No, I'm talking somebody in the chat. It's not the B-2, it's the B-52 that remains airborne, smarty pants. The B-2 has to be refueled every like 10 minutes. Go on.
I thought these defense names were going to be performing a little bit better. I mean, they were climbing higher, but now you're 13% off the highs. Obviously, considering the conflict going on, you have LMT as well, Lockheed Martin, down substantially off of its highs. And the other night, I was looking for some signs of strength. And I found that in the telecommunications, the VZs, the AT&Ts, they're performing much better, but you're down 13% in Northrop and you're down 13% here in Lockheed Martin. I thought we'd see a little bit more considering what we got going on here in the Middle East.
Rivian wins direct sales in sales battle in Illinois. So Rivian secured a key legal win in Washington State. I thought it was Illinois. Allowing to sell vehicles directly to consumers. The decision protects Rivian's DTC model, direct-to-consumer, avoiding reliance on traditional dealership networks. It represents a meaningful step to expanding their EV distribution flexibility across the U.S. There was dealer pushback, though, and we know that. Traditional auto dealers initially pushed for restrictions via a ballot initiative aiming to block direct sales by cars to consumers. They face likely key legal challenges. Dealers ultimately dropped opposition in favor of a compromise, though. It highlights the ongoing tension between legacy dealership systems like the Fords, the GMs, the Chryslers, and the emerging EV sales models, which are very much direct to consumer. Leading the way, of course, Tesla with that model. Legacy automakers like Ford, Toyota, they all oppose the shift, citing concerns about market fairness. However, new EV entrants continue to push for direct sales control, which helps preserve margins as well as the user or the customer, I should say, experience. The outcome underscores a broad trend, though, towards de-intermediation of the auto retail. But there was also very much an expansion strategy at the end of the road here for Rivian. They expect to replicate this legal strategy in other states where they are likely to face headwinds as well. Success here could act as a template for national, or I should say nationwide, direct sales expansion. And long-term goal is to reduce dependency on third-party dealerships entirely. If fact check me, chat, is Tesla still selling cars via the dealership model in Louisiana? I remember there was like one state where they couldn't do DTC because of state prohibitions. So there was something like that. I mean, I'm not sure exactly which one. I'll send it to you while I can look that up, Joey.
Absolutely, yeah. So I'm just reading some more things here on Rivian. Interesting, getting another $1 billion of investment from Volkswagen after they completed winter testing. And when we talk about autonomous vehicles and full self-drive, this is what we're, especially not necessarily in the warmer states, but when you come north and it gets colder and you go through those winter storms, I think that's really important to note. After this testing, they're getting an additional $1 billion as well, too. So Volkswagen putting a lot of confidence here in Rivian. So I find that interesting for sure.
Also, there's more than one. So Texas, despite moving its headquarters to Austin, obviously Tesla cannot legally sell a car to a Texan, but you buy it online, and technically it originates from another state before being dropped to your house, Louisiana as well. After years of litigation, Tesla settled the lawsuit in mid-25. Okay, I didn't get that. Effectively accepting the state's ban on direct sales for the time being. Wisconsin as well, one of the most restrictive. Tesla can only operate galleries where employees are legally forbidden from discussing price, from discussing finance, or even giving test drives in some cases. Whoa. South Carolina, not only are sales banned, but the state has also fought to prevent Tesla from even opening up service centers. What the hell? Oklahoma continues to block manufacturer-owned dealerships, forcing residents to look to neighboring states. That is bizarre. And then there's limited caps in New York, Ohio, and Jersey. And there's been recent changes in New Mexico and Connecticut. I didn't even know it was that far-reaching. Like, I didn't think it proliferated that far out, but interesting look there. All right, that does the news segment. We got about 20 minutes left. Joey, what have you been looking at, brother?
I got my eyes on Tesla. Missed opportunity here on IBIT. We had that move lower. We caught the leg during the earlier hours of the session. Pulls back, a good opportunity. I was talking about this shelf being broken, and sure enough, the momentum just really picked up to the downside. I have my eyes here on Tesla for a potential long here. Other than that, USO almost at the high of the day. Market slid, broke through that support level, that neckline of 561 on the NASDAQ. SPY broke to the low as well. Perfect. So it's been weak here today without any form of questioning. Now, you have to be patient. Maybe it'll be 3 o'clock or so before you find an opportunity to go long. I think there might be one. NVDA continuously sliding here as well. We'll pull up that name and see what we got going on. Just an ever so slight pullback, but if these larger participants going to continue to slide, then it's not going to look good for this overall market. We're officially in bear territory in the majority of the names. At some point, maybe the NASDAQ and the SPY play catch up, but that's not going to be good whatsoever. That means you can see some more downside. What are we down on the SPY from a daily? We'll pull this up. I mean, we picked up momentum relatively quick here. You're down, so before you hit bear territory in the SPY, you're going to need to drop another 12% or so roughly. Same here with the NASDAQ. Maybe it's down a little bit more considering its largest holdings are down substantially and all of them are in bear territory, 12%. Another 8% there, you can classify it as a bear market. How long is that going to be held on to? I don't know. You're going to want to wait for some trend lines to be broken and wait for this war to come to a cooling conclusion. But at that point, maybe we continuously see some side to 25% maybe.
It'd be nice if it cooled the hell down, man. And we kind of moved on with things. All right, getting into BFRG here, as this one is kind of showing that curling effect. Say it again. Is it actually 16 degrees, baby? Well, the high of 19, Katina, man, so I don't even think it's done, brother. It might be up a little bit more. Okay. Might have to postpone the vacation, Joey.
Yeah, we'll see if you can push it back to next year.
Pushing it back to next year.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen. All right.
We got to postpone it to when it's cold,
We got to postpone it. All right, guys, BFRG is kind of doing that curling effect that it's done before, and on every other curling move, it's broken out. So this would be an exception. I'm talking about the breakout at, between 9:30 to 10 o'clock. Again, 11:05 to about 11:25. Then again at 12:45. Here we are again, starting at around 1:30. Let's see if we can kind of build a better position into this and see if we can kind of ride up with the trend, but rejecting 139 for now. I'm in at 134. I'm looking for continuation to retest 150. This one seems like it's ready to go, but kind of hard to know with this one. I'm red on it. I'm red on the day. So we'll see what this one has to offer. It's got higher lows and higher highs. So entry level position here, looking for kind of a trend break. I want to say ideally above 150 to test 155, but on every other occasion, we've made new highs on the day. I'm talking about that initial breakout at 7 a.m. I mean the 9:30 breakout as well. I'm talking about the 11:15 breakout and the 1 o'clock breakout. On every attempt, it's made successively new highs with these higher lows really holding up. So a bit of a tougher trade for me, but when you're looking at it ex post facto, it looks good. So we're going to try to take this one here into the 1 1/4, possibly with the full stop out below the 1120 bar low, which takes us down to 118. So it'll have to hold above there for me to stay interested as a long. We'll see what this one has to offer. BFRG putting in a bit of a topping tail candle now, possibly luring in people into that 139 price spike up. Current bar high is 138. Current bar low, we're at it, 127. Let's see if this holds up, Joey.
All right, good look. I'm looking for a long here on TSLL. Frustrating, like I got to switch something up here. Went to go long here off this level. Wrong key, and I put a substantial, largest amount of size on the day on that one. So it's okay, we give a nice chunk of our day back on that. But nonetheless, we'll wait for this pullback and see if we can find a little bit of a bounce here in Tesla. I like the indecision print on the 5-minute low. And yeah, I mean, pullback, retest of that, and then we're going to engage on this one with a little bit more size than we had on this initial one. So you just got to be a little bit more patient and wait for that quality opportunity to step in or display itself. Head over to our scanner here, guys. We haven't done that. We've looked a little bit at the options chain here today. We can do that momentarily. But what we want to do is head over to our scanner. Oh, we don't want this here right now. Let's pull this back up. Now we're getting that pullback. So many tabs and screens. See what our scanners got going on. Top name, 110 million shares right there. SOXL, TQQs, SPY, INTC, 5-minute time frame. What's Intel been up to on this on the session? Finding somewhat of a rebound. That's not too bad of a look whatsoever. MU just been getting absolutely destroyed, down substantially. That's not a good look there. 30% in the span of a couple of trading weeks. So it's been a tougher one without any question. Now, moving forward, let's actually head over to the daily and see what we got in the Mag 7 to see where we stand at from a percentage point off of the previous highs. Let's make this bigger here so we can see a little bit better. Gotta love the compatibility within the platform. Sorry about that. All right, now moving forward. 21% NVDA. 21. Apple. What are we down off the highs on Apple?
What are we down?
14%.
Oh my
All right.
day.
Microsoft gets even worse as we move on.
Gets worse.
Microsoft, 35%.
Oh.
Amazon.
No.
Yeah.
Stop.
I can't. 22%. Right? We have to keep on going no matter what happens. Google. Google now down substantially. Katina, man, how much are we down in Google off of the highs? You guessed it, 21%, brother. Not too good. Again, Meta.
Dunking on everybody.
I mean, need I go on? Yes, 32% in Meta. Now, can Broadcom give us any form of hope? No, Sharif, you guessed that right as well. We're down 29% in that one. We'll call it 30.
Broadcom lost $300 too, man.
Yeah, so it's been absolutely disastrous. And there goes TSLL with a nice pop to the top side. The market's slightly recovering. It's somewhat of a pullback. It's better than nothing. But those top names that we just went over, with the exception of Apple, who's down 14%, all of them down more than 20%. So that is not a good look whatsoever.
Did you see this Moses Itoma guy?
No.
Oh, tell me you don't know about this guy, man.
No, I don't.
He's the new heavyweight. People are actually talking about this guy taking on Usyk.
In boxing?
He kind of looks like Mike Tyson. He's not like your 21st century heavyweight, 6'5" and up. Not that kind of fighter.
No?
No. I would say he's probably like 6'1", 6, something like that. Did you guys hear about this guy?
Who has he fought is the real question.
Something's going on here. Levitt, Iran's best move to make deal or face consequences. All right, I don't know if this is it, but we're gonna go to Adair here.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of held off on saying too much here because it's a lot of restatement of what we already knew, or rather what we're already hearing or have heard. Caroline Levitt saying that despite Iran saying that they haven't talked to the U.S., they have in fact talked to the U.S., also just saying that, yeah, like she's not going to say what President Trump's going to do. President Trump's not going to say what President Trump's going to do. They're going to keep their cards close to the vest. And as Sharif just mentioned, most recent comment here, Iran should strike a deal or face consequences. And again, President Trump does expect the Iranian regime, or rather, I guess the less intense parts here, the more agreeable parts of the Iranian regime, to reach a deal with the U.S. She has not commented here with regards to Kharag Island or those potential strikes, only to say that President Trump would only do things that are aligned with, I guess, law and international law, because that was actually a question raised by reporters. So long story short, a lot of these questions are about Iran. Not a lot of them are making too much of a move here. Back to you.
Thank you very much for that, Adair. Yeah. Did you see the question? Somebody asked him, I forget what it was. It was like whether he was going to go in or he was going to do something. He's like, what a stupid question. It's like, why would I answer that? Like, I'm not going to tell you what my move is going to be. That's kind of echo what Adair said there. Yeah, he's kind of said that multiple times. All right, guys, holding BFRG here, looking for the curl back up. This one's had a tendency to spike. To spike up. So let's see if we can kind of, take out that prior area high. The prior area high is the prior candle, which is 138. High a day is 155. I'll submit to you, we've got a lot of selling at the $0.50, let alone 40 pennies, which has also acted as a resistance area. So we're putting in those higher lows. It seems like it's getting its footing under it, but there's no breakout quite yet. Putting a tester here at 134 to sort of wet the beak and see whether or not we can kind of price spike up. New 5-minute candle just opened. About 10 minutes left on the show before we send you to the big boys. BFRG is up 160%. It's done 364 million shares of volume. So let's see what we can get on this one, make some money back on the day. We're negative on the day. They don't want to leave, the trip negative, but we'll see what this trade has to offer. If we get a nice price spike up into 145, 150, we can make some moves here, Joey, but that's all predicated upon this one taking out prior bar, well, not prior bar high now, the candle at 140. Again, the high of which I believe is 138. So definitely keeping an eye on that.
Good look. All right, guys, we're back involved. It's not on the position board right now. We're in exactly where we want to be here for a potential long on Tesla. If we get an additional price spike, that'll be absolutely fantastic. I have 33% more size on this position than I have on the previous one, so we're looking to gain a little bit back here. We took a slide on that, considering the little bit of a mistake. We gave some back, so now we're looking to kind of just recover from it. If it works, then by all means, we're sitting in a good position. If it decides that it wants to have any form of a pullback, If it breaks down and cracks that low, then it is what it is, right? So 11, 12, you're not going to see where I'm in at. I'm at 25s roughly. If it cracks 5 cents, then we get out of dodge. The market continuing to slide here, guys. The NASDAQ putting in an inverted right on a pullback candle. So buy programs aren't stepping in. Sell programs seem fully engaged, and it might be the narrative here on Tesla. We had that consolidation in the first hour of the day, leading up until noon, and then that's when it decides to break. So as they typically say, the longer the consolidation, the more sustained the move may be. Dumping shares here on Tesla with no form of a rebound might not be a good opportunity or a good site for my potential long. I thought we'd be a little bit oversold from an intraday standpoint. Doesn't necessarily mean that we are. All right, so we went over this from a percentage metric, 30% off of that high. So it's definitely been a tough look in the tech sector. But at some point, regardless of how long it takes, these names will rebound, and they'll rebound with strength. They're fundamentally strong. Obviously, we know with Tesla, the EV sector is just dwindling left, right, and center, unfortunately, overseas. But what we remain is forward-looking, even though it doesn't necessarily matter from an intraday standpoint. Let's see if we can get an additional bounce here on TSLA, down 2.8%. on the session, and continuing look like it wants to head in the opposite direction of my trade, which will not be good for me, sure.
All right, man, still watching BFRG here. It's been stuck at 33, 32 on the bid, 33 on the ask. I want to say for the last, feels like 5 or 6 minutes here. I haven't seen a move up into 34. There's a lot of buying there. There's 34. Can we get continuation? We took out a big seller, but there's really there's no big move up. There's 34. We get the beak wet there. Looking for the bigger move into 40. We need to see the buying coming in. Now there's going to be selling at every level, and there comes in the selling at 34, about 200 lots or so on those two exchanges. A little bit more coming in now, up to 400, sorry. Look at all the selling coming in, and there's all the red orders, red and yellow and blue. I haven't seen any blue quite yet, though, which usually means aggressive selling. So looking for this one to price spike up. I don't know. It just seems like it's setting up for it. It's really hard to know. It's been bamboozling me on the day, but it made an area low. It's curling up, and it's had this tendency to kind of create a base and then curl right back up many times. As you can see on the bottom chart there, it finds a base, rockets back up, finds a base, rockets back up, whether or not it does that on this successive attempt, but it is up 160%. So there's going to be on a lot of people's radars. Done quite a bit of volume, 365 million. So we're closing in on about 400 million worth of shares. Continuing to watch here. I don't have any orders until about 38. I'm holding the majority of the position. I'm looking for a bigger move up. Into that 140, 145. They're selling into 133, so no continuation there. What else we got? ASTC was another one that we had eyes on earlier. This one kind of gave it up and then some. It breaking trend a little bit now, but I've seen this before where you draw a trend line. It covers above it, only to stop you out later. So it's kind of rejecting the volume weighted average price. This could be a great short. So you're looking short here with a move or your stop above this area high, the 145 area. So above 492, I think that's candle high. And you're looking to add below 4. If it loses 4, it's probably going down to the 280, which is the low of the day. So that's ASTC. You're looking at that one. UGRO ended up being a bit of a double top into 28, so that didn't really work out much, but it's still up about 30%, a little bit less on the day. BBWI said super little about this one. Probably should have traded this one. This one was clean, 1880 high at 1860 now. It's been quite strong above the volume weighted average price basically all day. So that's what I'm watching. I'm continuing to hold BFRG. My entry's at 129. I stop out below 125.
Good look there. All right, Adam, nice, man. I hope you're enjoying the sun. This Tesla trade not looking too good here, guys, as the market is slowly starting to curl around. We head right back towards that low of the day. So, yeah, we'll hold on to it for as long as we can. We put some shares on so we can't allow this to go against us. A nice ebb and flow. If this bottom holds up and we can get a climb back, this is a bit of a push, right? Like, we're not even through some of these resistance zones. I can't really have this as a potential target. So what we want is a break of this previous pivot. You can see there was a resistance zone. You get that wick up into there, and then you come right back in. So Tesla has been extremely weak. Heading back over to our scanner just to look at a couple of other names. Ethereum with 35.8 million shares traded on the intraday session. Core weave, how has it been performing? Oh, been getting absolutely destroyed. I have 115 down to a low, 41% there in core weave as well. So it's definitely a tough space. And we're going to go over some of the names that I found that had relative strength, and you would be surprised by them. Some staples are holding up okay, but some of the communications is definitely, it seems to be where the money is flowing into Adair.
Another oil headline here, and this one could be pretty significant. I'm seeing reports that Iran's parliament has approved a bill to impose fees or tolls rather here on the Hormuz Strait. So we know earlier today during her White House press briefing, which is just wrapping up now, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said that President Trump would not be okay with any kind of fees or tolls being imposed here on passage through the Hormuz Strait. Looks like Iran's parliament has approved a bill to do just that.
JCSE is at the high of the day, guys, so it's breaking out as we speak. JCSE, so keep your eye on that one.
Here's I whatever. Here's T, right? AT&T right here. Not too bad of a look. And then we also have VZ as well that has been performing relatively good, guys. So, I mean, not too far off of that previous high whatsoever. So a couple of percentage points. Well, the tech names are just getting absolutely destroyed. You're down a couple of percents here in Verizon Wireless.
All right, JCSE is at the high of the day. A good look into, where is that, 171. That is the high, coming back down into 66. It looks like the breakout level, you know, between 60 and 55, because there's been so much chop and churn, but it's been quite respectful of the base that it formed. I feel like that 135, 140 area was money if you picked it up off there. Now, it did breach VWAP on a bunch of occasions, but here it is, right back into the area high, 171. This one's breaking out, much to, you know, the disadvantage of BFRG, because that one is now starting to sell off here. So it looks like the traders, the small cap traders, looking at JCSE to the detriment of BFRG, and obviously to my detriment as well, as it will come back down now into my entry level, giving back the profits that I had. 124 I stop out, so that's area low over here. We'll have to see if that holds up. So I just got to manage this trade, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Again, we're down. Not looking too good. NASDAQ heading towards the low of the day. The SPY. Katina Man still short on NVDA, so that's a good look there, brother. As it's down to 166. I like it. 150 might be in the works here. I mean, we got to get to 160 first. I think we'll find a bounce at some time throughout the week. Maybe not today. Obviously, that hasn't been the case. Maybe not tomorrow, Wednesday, or midweek, leading into the end of it. I think we will get a little bit of bounce, head back into that 170 mark here for NVDA. That will help drag the market up a little bit, and then maybe we continue our slide. But we talked about this quite some time ago, just the support levels. You had the consolidation zones in the SPY, in the NASDAQ, in NVDA. You can be the best in class and still potentially break down. So nice little pop there. Come on, break through that previous pivot level of 1125. You can see we're in at 26s. We want to at least give this a 1-to-1 here, roughly. A nice pop there, Sharif. That's exactly what we want to see, my friend, as Tesla starting to find somewhat of a rebound. Now, can it be sustained? We found resistance at this specific level right here. Not too good, 1128. Break through that. Give us a couple pennies. Let's go. We want to ride this bull. There we go. We're printing 27 on the ask. And now, are you in this, Los Polios? I haven't seen you here today. Gaurav, how's your guys' day been? TBK, I see you in the chat. Make sure you guys hit those ones for my boy Sharif. He's going to be on vacation, and he's not going to rub in the sunshine or anything along those lines to any of us. So hit that.
Won't be sending pictures like you did last time, bro. Making us feel all bad.
No. Hit the ones in the chat for our boy over here. I'll put it in there for Sharif as he is headed off for vacation for a couple of days, and he's going to have a lot of fun in Punta, Canada.
Hey, all right, we're overtime.
Overtime, man. You didn't get the ones there. They're coming in there.
All right, guys. See everybody. Same bat time, same bat channel. OBN. See you guys.